to prove that he is very bored in the human world. The sword immortal used a single sword strike to disperse the thunderclouds of someone else's tribulation, cut off the threads of karma, caused the Tao hearts of all geniuses in the cultivation world to collapse, and even forced the heavenly Tao itself to send him away to the myriad realms. At this moment, he crossed the chaos of turbulence, and arrived at the wedding ceremony of an unfamiliar realm. The hundreds of cultivators in the Jieluan realm dared not even breathe, simply because he said one sentence: "This marriage, she does not consent." Mu Yunshan was tired of staying in the human world. One sword strike split open the heavenly tribulation. One sword strike cut off the threads of karma. One sword strike made the entire cultivation world kneel and call you sword immortal grandfather. The human world is indeed boring. Just now, someone was undergoing the ascension tribulation. The thunder was too noisy, so he casually dispersed the tribulation clouds with one sword strike. The old man undergoing the tribulation knelt on the ground in a daze for a long time. "Senior, you this. No need to thank me." He didn't even look back. Purely because the thunderclouds were blocking the moon, the heavenly Tao manifested into a form, and came to find him personally. "You should leave. The human realm cannot contain you anymore." "What did I do wrong?" "You split the heavenly tribulation. It was blocking my view of the moon. You cut the threads of karma. That thread tangled itself on my sword. You disrupted the entire cultivation world's boundary system. Everyone is asking why a mortal can be invincible." Mu Yunshan thought for a moment. What does that have to do with me? The heavenly Tao remained silent for a moment, then tore open a spatial turbulence. Go cause trouble for someone else in another realm. He stepped into the chaotic turbulence, but stood firmly, like stepping on a surfboard. At the end of the turbulence, he saw a scene, a magnificent palace, red silk hanging high, and golden wedding characters posted. A woman in a phoenix coronet and robes stood in the center of the palace, her eyes empty, like a pool of stagnant water. He had seen this kind of gaze before. A woman sold by her family into an arranged marriage, looked back once before boarding the bridal sedan, and 3 days later, she threw herself into a well, and that power pulling him along, was desperately trying to push him in another direction, fearing that he would go there. Mu Yunshan's mouth slowly curled upward. Interesting. He struck with his sword, splitting the turbulence into a straight passage. Immortal realm, second heaven. The wedding ceremony of the Lin family and the Zhao family. Lin Qingxue, the eldest legitimate daughter of the Lin family, was promised to the second son of the Zhao family from the fourth heaven. They were bullies who had beaten a concubine to death and settled it with a payment of spirit stones. She hid a dagger in her sleeve, having thought of fleeing, thought of dying, but she was unwilling. Why should her life be decided by others? Just at the moment she was prepared to step forward, the void above the palace split open. A man in white walked out from it, his black hair tied behind his head, and a plain sword without a scabbard hung at his waist. The most crucial part was that there was no fluctuation of any boundary realm on him. "Who is your excellency?" The Zhao family butler spoke in a deep voice. Mu Yunshan said 2 words. "Step aside." Lin Zhentian slapped his armrest, blocking him. 2 guards rushed forward. Mu Yunshan tilted his head and glanced at them. The 2 guards' knees went weak and they plopped to their knees, their blade tips clicking against the floor tiles, their souls suppressed by fear. Lin Zhentian roared furiously, unleashing the full aura of the 6th tribulation of the Jieluan realm, his 5 fingers turning into claws as he grabbed at his shoulder. Mu Yunshan brought 2 fingers together and waved lightly. Lin Zhentian felt a tightness in his chest and a darkness before his eyes as he flew backward, crashing through 3 thick walls in succession, and smashing a hole several feet deep into the mountain wall 1,000 meters away. The entire hall was silent. The Zhao family butler stood up abruptly, the wrinkles on his face bunching together. "Who exactly are you?" Mu Yunshan ignored him, his gaze passing over the guests in the hall and falling on the bride. Lin Qingxue looked at him, something in her eyes beginning to light up again. "This marriage, she does not consent. I also do not approve." The Zhao family butler took a step forward, releasing all his 9th tribulation aura. The entire palace was trembling. "Your Excellency, are you sure you want to interfere in the affairs of the Zhao family?" Mu Yunshan finally shifted his gaze to him. "Zhao family?" He tilted his head. "Never heard of them." The butler's face flushed to the color of a liver. He had lived for thousands of years, and no one had ever dared to speak to him like that. Mu Yunshan had already walked in front of the bride, looking down at her. "Do you want to leave?" Lin Qingxue looked at him, that white figure reflected in those long empty eyes. Her lips moved, the voice very light. "Leave." She didn't even ask where they were going. Mu Yunshan turned around, his gaze sweeping over the guests. Those Jieluan realm cultivators lowered their heads the moment their eyes met his. No one dared to look him in the eye. The Zhao family butler clenched his fists tightly, but never dared to strike, because even now, he couldn't see through what realm this person was actually in. "Steward Zhao, why waste words with him? Kill him. Isn't it said that this little wench has a special constitution?" She actually dared to look for. Before Zhao Lingyun could finish speaking, the void vibrated again. A voice resounded in the void. Only Mu Yunshan could hear it. "Mu Yunshan, don't interfere." It was the heavenly Tao of the human world. It was unwilling. A wisp of its intent had pursued him. "You promised me to stay properly in another realm. Why did you split the spatial turbulence? This is the immortal realm. It has nothing to do with you. Don't cause trouble for me." Mu Yunshan's mouth slowly curled upward. He glanced at that wisp of anxious intent of the heavenly Tao in the depths of the void, then looked at the terrified guests in the hall, and finally looked at the bride bride who was gripping her dagger tightly, her eyes slightly red, desperately holding back tears. Then he smiled. I refuse. Mu Yunshan said these 3 words softly, the voice very light, light enough that only the heavenly Tao could hear. The next second, he reached out, passing over everyone, passing over the shock and fear in the hall, passing over the 9th tribulation aura of the Zhao family butler, passing over Lin Zhentian's anger, passing over all worldly schemes and rules. He grabbed Lin Qingshue's hand. Lin Qingsue shuddered all over. That hand was very cold, very steady, as if once held, it would never let go. Leave. One word. Lin Qingshue's tears finally fell. She didn't know why she cried, nor did she know who this person was, or even more, where he was taking her, but she gripped his hand tightly, just like a drowning person clutching the last piece of driftwood. Mu Yunshan pulled her, turned, and walked out of the hall. Stop! The Zhao family butler roared. The power of the 9th tribulation condensed into a blade of light, slashing toward Mu Yunshan's back. Mu Yunshan didn't even turn his head. The sword at his waist moved on its own. It didn't leave his waist, it just vibrated slightly at the hilt. An invisible sword chi shot out, piercing through the butler's blade of light, piercing through the butler's protective aura, piercing through the butler's body. The butler stood where he was, motionless. 3 seconds later, his body split into 2 from the middle. A mist of blood exploded, splashing onto the faces of the guests in the hall. 9th tribulation realm. Seconds killed. The hall was completely quiet. There wasn't even the sound of breathing. Mu Yunshan pulled Lin Qingsue and walked out the door of the hall. Outside the door, clouds and seas rolled. The sky was high and the sea was wide. He looked up at the sky, seemingly searching for something. In the depths of the void, that wisp of heavenly Tao intent was trembling frantically. Mu Yunshan, are you crazy? Do you know who you provoked? The Zhao family has sages. Sages of the 4th heaven. Even if you can fight, what about the woman behind you? Can she withstand a strike from a sage? What's the use of being invincible alone? You have a weakness now. They will capture your weakness. You will kill her. And you will ruin yourself too. I beg you, go back. Or change to another place. Don't cause trouble in the immortal realm. Mu Yunshan finally responded to the heavenly Tao, with only one sentence. Who said she is a weakness? He looked down at Lin Qingsue. Lin Qingsue was tearful, but her eyes were firmer than ever before. Mu Yunshan moved his gaze away, looking toward the higher and farther horizon. There, in the direction of the 4th heaven, a terrifying aura was awakening. Sages. They were coming. He gripped Lin Qingshue's hand tightly, and said a sentence that left Lin Qingsue stunned. Let's go. Find somewhere to eat first. I'm hungry. Does he even know what fear is? Lin Qingsue felt that she must be crazy. An hour ago, she was still the bride waiting to be married by the Lin family, in phoenix coronet and robes, standing in the wedding hall waiting to die. An hour later, she was wearing that bright red wedding dress, being pulled by a stranger, taking a walk in the wilderness of the 2nd heaven. Yes, a walk. Not running wildly, not fleeing for her life. The blood of the Zhao family butler behind them hadn't dried. The aura of the sages from the 4th heaven was awakening, and the entire 2nd heaven was afraid it was going to be turned upside down. Yet this man in white was taking a walk. Say, senior. Lin Qingsue finally couldn't help but speak. Where are we walking to? Don't know. Mu Yunshan answered very crisply. Lin Qingsue stumbled under her feet. You don't know? First time here. Mu Yunshan looked around, as if he were strolling in a park. The spiritual energy here is richer than in the human world. It's just that the color isn't very good looking. What is that purple light in the sky? That's the immortal chi tide, unique to the 2nd heaven. Oh, how ugly. She was now very certain that this person was either some old monster living in seclusion, or his brain was problematic. But judging from his strength of killing a 9th tribulation realm butler with one sword strike, the former possibility was greater. Senior, the junior dares to ask, what realm are you in? No realm. Lin Qingsue thought he didn't want to say, so she sensibly didn't ask again. The two walked silently for a distance. A small city appeared ahead. The city walls weren't high, but the defensive barrier formed by spiritual energy was decent. People were coming and going at the city gate, mostly cultivators of the spirit platform realm and Dharma image realm. Occasionally, one could see the aura of 1 or 2 void-piercing realm cultivators. This is a border town of the 2nd heaven, Lin Qingsue explained. Further ahead is the teleportation array to the 1st heaven. The 1st heaven is the bottom level of the immortal realm, mostly just ascended cultivators, low cultivation level, and the prices are cheap. Prices are cheap. Mu Yunshan's eyes brightened. Lin Qingsue was stunned for a moment, not expecting this big shot's focus to be so grounded. Yes, the prices in the 1st heaven are much lower than in the 2nd heaven. The currency of the 1st heaven is mostly medium-grade spirit stones. Spirit stones? Mu Yunshan frowned. What is that? Lin Qingsue was completely dumbfounded. She stared at Mu Yunshan for 3 seconds, confirmed he wasn't joking, and then spoke with difficulty. Senior, you wouldn't not have spirit stones, would you? Mu Yunshan thought about it, and fished out a few copper coins from his sleeve, the kind used in the human world, even engraved with the names of some dynasty. Lin Qingsue looked at those copper coins, and was silent for a long time. Senior, the immortal realm doesn't accept copper coins. I know. Then you. So, we go to the 1st heaven. Mu Yunshan put the copper coins back into his sleeve. You said it's cheap there. Lin Qingsue took a deep breath. She now started to suspect that this person might not be an old monster, but his brain was problematic. But the Zhao family's pursuers could arrive at any time. She didn't have much choice. The teleportation array is in the city center. Follow me. The two entered the city. Lin Qingshue's wedding dress was simply too eye-catching. The bright red was like a walking fire on the dusty street. Passing cultivators turned their heads one after another, whispering, "Isn't that the lady from the Lin family? Isn't today her big wedding day? Who is that man next to her? Why isn't he wearing wedding clothes? What's his cultivation? I can't see through him. A mortal? A mortal? Can a mortal walk with the daughter of the Lin family?" Mu Yunshan was indifferent to these gazes, even having the leisure to look around. When passing a candied hawthorn stall, he stopped. The immortal realm also has this stuff. Looks not bad. Lin Qingxue almost lost her footing. "Senior, we are fleeing for our lives now." "Fleeing for our lives doesn't delay eating," Mu Yunshan said righteously, turning to ask the stall owner, "How much?" The stall owner was just an old cultivator of the nascent soul realm, and his hair stood on end from being watched by Mu Yunshan. He stuttered, One medium-grade spirit stone a skewer." Mu Yunshan turned to look at Lin Qingxue. Lin Qingxue touched her sleeve, her face changing slightly. "What's wrong?" I didn't bring anything when I went out." Lin Qingshue's face looked a bit ugly. "The wedding dress is the Lin family's. The phoenix coronet is the Lin family's. I don't even have a low-grade spirit stone on me." She thought Mu Yunshan would be disappointed, or angry, but Mu Yunshan just said "Oh," and then said to the stall owner, "Put it on my tab. I'll come to redeem it tomorrow." "Senior," Lin Qingxue said in a low voice, "the immortal realm doesn't have the concept of a tab. Then I'll have spirit stones and come back." Mu Yunshan turned around and continued walking, completely unconcerned, as if nothing had happened just now. Lin Qingxue followed behind, suddenly feeling that this person was a bit strange. He was ridiculously strong, yet didn't even have spirit stones. He killed a 9th tribulation realm with one sword strike, yet stopped for a skewer of candied haws. He stole the Zhao family's bride, yet acted as if it was nothing at all. This person, what exactly is his background? The teleportation array was set on a high platform in the city center, guarded by cultivators, all of the Dharma image realm, to the first heaven. 5 medium-grade spirit stones per person. The guard said expressionlessly. Lin Qingxue clenched her sleeves. She had no money, and Mu Yunshan had no money. She was just about to say something, when Mu Yunshan had already stepped onto the teleportation array. "Senior, we haven't paid." The guard was about to forbid them sternly, but met Mu Yunshan's gaze. His legs went weak, almost kneeling down. That feeling was like having an invisible mountain pressing on his shoulders. It wasn't boundary suppression. There was no aura pressure. It was something more essential, like a feeling carved into his bones, as if as long as this white-clothed man willed it, he could make him disappear from the world with a single glance. Can I put it on my tab?" The guard said this almost instinctively. After speaking, he himself was stunned. He had lived in the immortal realm for 800 years, and had never said the words, "Put it on my tab." Mu Yunshan nodded satisfactorily. "Let's go." Lin Qingxue hurried onto the teleportation array, her heart thumping wildly. The teleportation array activated, and white light engulfed everything. First heaven. If the second heaven could be considered to have a bit of immortal chi, the first heaven was a large slum of the immortal realm. The sky was gray and gloomy, and the spiritual energy was pitifully sparse, not even as good as some spiritual mountains in the human world. The streets were narrow, the buildings low, and everywhere were just ascended cultivators, still carrying the frost and wind of the mortal world on their faces. But even so, the poverty here was the poverty of the immortal realm. A Xiaobing baked bun stall on the roadside asked for 3 medium-grade spirit stones. 3 medium-grade spirit stones. In the human world, it was enough for an ordinary cultivator to eat for a long time. Mu Yunshan stood on the street, looking around, and reached a conclusion. "I still don't have money." Lin Qingxue gave a wry smile. "Senior, we must find a way to get some spirit stones. Otherwise we won't even have a place to stay tonight." "You said the first heaven's prices are cheap." "That's comparing the first heaven and the second heaven," Lin Qingxue said helplessly. "No matter how cheap the first heaven is, it still uses spirit stones." "Senior, those copper coins of yours." She didn't finish, but the meaning was very clear. "The immortal realm doesn't recognize human money." "Don't say the immortal realm. Even the cultivator cities of the human world wouldn't recognize it." Mu Yunshan was silent for a moment, then suddenly asked an unrelated question. "What is your constitution?" Lin Qingxue was stunned. "What? Your constitution?" Mu Yunshan looked at her, his gaze calm. "The Lin family married you to the Zhao family, not because of an alliance. The alliance was just an excuse. The Zhao family wanted your constitution." Lin Qingshue's face changed. She opened her mouth, wanting to deny it, but swallowed the words when they reached her lips, because what he said was right. She had always felt strange. The Lin family, while not the best in the second heaven, didn't need to marry off their legitimate daughter to that waste Zhao Lingyun. What kind of alliances did the Zhao family not have? Why bother finding a small family in the second heaven? Unless, what the Zhao family wanted wasn't the Lin family, but her. "I don't know." Lin Qingxue shook her head. "The Lin family only tested my constitution once, saying it was a common spirit body, with average aptitude, so they treated me as a bargaining chip." "Common spirit body?" Mu Yunshan smiled. That smile made Lin Qingshue's heart tighten. "Senior, did you see something?" "Not very clear," Mu Yunshan said, "but there is something sleeping inside you. It is very quiet, but very big. So big that, even I feel it's a bit interesting. Lin Qingxue was stunned. This was the first time she had heard someone say her constitution was interesting. From childhood to adulthood, everyone told her that her aptitude was mediocre, and her only value was this face and this surname. But now, a powerhouse capable of killing a ninth tribulation realm with one sword strike said that there was something sleeping in her body, and it was so big that even he felt it was interesting. Senior, what exactly is? Don't know. Mu Yunshan interrupted her. But the Zhao family's sage definitely knows. So he wanted you, not to marry you, but to take what is inside you. Lin Qingxue's heart sank. She remembered the way the Zhao family butler looked at her. That wasn't the look of a bride. It was the look of a rare treasure. Then what should we do now? Eat first, Mu Yunshan said. I'm hungry. She took a deep breath, telling herself she couldn't be angry. This was a life-saving benefactor. Senior, we don't have spirit stones. We can't eat. Mu Yunshan thought about it, and suddenly walked toward a stall at the corner of the street. That was a stall selling spiritual beast skewers. The owner was a burly man, with Dharma image realm cultivation, using a large brush to apply sauce to the skewers. The fragrance drifted for half a street. How much for a skewer? Mu Yunshan asked. The owner didn't even look up. 5 medium-grade spirit stones. I don't have money. The owner finally looked up, glanced at Mu Yunshan, sneered. If you don't have money, what are you eating? Get lost. Mu Yunshan didn't move. He thought for a while, and then slowly drew that long sword without a scabbard from his waist. The owner's face changed, stepping back, his hand pressing on the Dharma artifact at his waist. What do you want to do? Pedestrians on the street avoided them one after another. A few patrolling cultivators looked over. Lin Qingxue's heart rose to her throat. She knew the strength of this senior. One sword strike later, this owner wouldn't even have ashes left. But she didn't want to see such a scene, not because she sympathized with the owner, but because, senior, Lin Qingxue pulled his sleeve. Don't do it here. There are patrol angels in the first heaven. Although they aren't very strong, killing them will attract the attention of higher levels. Zhao family people might already be looking for us. Mu Yunshan looked at her, then looked at the sword in his hand, and then he handed the sword to the owner. Pawn it here. I'll come to redeem it tomorrow. The owner was stunned. Lin Qingxue was also stunned. That sword, although it looked ordinary, a sword capable of killing a ninth tribulation realm in seconds, could it be an ordinary product? The owner swallowed his saliva, cautiously taking the sword. The moment he touched it, his face changed. Heavy. Not heavy in a physical sense. It was a kind of unspeakable weight, as if what he was holding wasn't a sword, but a mountain, a river, a sky. His hands were trembling. 10 skewers, Mu Yunshan said. The owner didn't say another word, placed the sword on the stall, turned around and grilled 20 skewers, packed them with oil paper, and handed them over with both hands. Big, great lord, enjoy your meal slowly. Mu Yunshan took the skewers, shared half with Lin Qingxue, took a bite. Not bad. Lin Qingxue held the skewers, looked at that sword being casually pawned on the barbecue stall, and then looked at this man with his mouth full of oil. She suddenly felt that she might be following a madman powerful to the point of being outrageous. But for some reason, the fear in her heart diminished a lot. In the distance, at the boundary between the first heaven and the second heaven, an old man walked out from the void. He wore a gray robe, his face withered and thin, but his eyes were brightly terrifying. His sage realm aura only leaked out a tiny bit, and the spiritual beasts within 1,000 miles lay prostrate on the ground, trembling. Zhao family sage, Zhao Tianhe, the ancestor of the fourth heaven Zhao family, an old monster who had lived for 10,000 years. He closed his eyes and sensed for a moment, his mouth curling into a smile. Found you. His gaze passed through layers of space, landing on a dilapidated street in the first heaven. The man in white who was eating barbecue, and the woman wearing the wedding dress. Common spirit body. Zhao Tianhe shook his head lightly. That bunch of idiots in the Lin family. Sure enough, they have eyes but don't see. His gaze locked onto Lin Qingxue, locked onto the thing sleeping inside her. That ancient, rare innate Dao body that even quasi-emperors drooled over. The Lin family doesn't know what's good, only testing out a spirit body. But I have waited for 800 years, and finally waited for it. Zhao Tianhe's smile gradually widened. As for that kid who stole the bride, he looked at Mu Yunshan, brows furrowing slightly. Can't see his depth, but indeed he has no cultivation. I don't need to worry. A mortal with no realm, no matter how strong can he be? If the ninth tribulation realm can't beat you, what about the nirvana realm? What about the sage realm? If the sage realm can't beat you, what about the rule suppression of the fourth heaven? The immortal realm isn't the human world. There is natural rule suppression in every heaven here. People from the lower realms coming up, cultivation level will be suppressed, strength will be greatly reduced. That sword immortal who came from the human world, can he be stronger than the rules of the immortal realm? Interesting. Zhao Tianhe retracted his gaze, his figure disappearing into the void. He wasn't in a hurry to make a move. He wanted to wait. Wait for the man in white to relax his vigilance. Wait for the woman to leave his sight. Wait for him to show a flaw. Having lived for 10,000 years, what Zhao Tianhe lacked the least was patience. But what he didn't know was that, at the moment he retracted his gaze, the man who was eating barbecue curled his mouth slightly. Sage. Mu Yunshan bit off a piece of meat skewer, mumbling 2 words unclearly. The meat skewer in Lin Qingxue's hand almost dropped. What? The Zhao family sage, Found us. Where? Don't know. Looked once and left. Mu Yunshan chewed the meat, his speech vague, not sounding the slightest bit nervous. Lin Qingshue's face went pale. Then what should we do? Wait for what? Mu Yunshan put down the last bamboo skewer, clapped his hands, and stood up. He looked at the sky. Let's go. Find a place to stay first. It's going to rain tonight. Lin Qingxue looked up at the sky. The sky of the first heaven was gray and gloomy, but there was not the slightest sign of rain. However, she was already too lazy to ask. Being with this madman, asking anything was useless. Late at night, first heaven, a certain inn. Lin Qingxue lay on the bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep, not because the bed was hard, or because the inn was crude, but because everything that happened during the day was turning in her mind like a revolving lantern. Fleeing marriage, killing, teleportation, barbecue, a sage, and that man, Mu Yunshan. She didn't even know if this name was true. He lived in the room next door, at the cost of a skewer of meat, using that sword as collateral, to exchange for 2 rooms to stay for the night. A sword capable of killing a 9th tribulation realm in seconds, exchanged for 20 skewers of meat, and 2 rooms in a dilapidated inn for the night. She really couldn't understand this person's values. Lin Qingxue turned over, suddenly hearing a muffled sound outside the window. Thunder. She sat up abruptly, lifting the curtains to look out. In the small alley behind the inn, Mu Yunshan was standing in the rain. He said it would rain, and it really rained. The rain of the first heaven carried a faint spiritual energy, hitting her face coldly. Mu Yunshan stood in the rain, looking up at the sky, not holding an umbrella, not using any means to avoid the rain, just standing there, letting the rain soak his white clothes. Lin Qingxue wanted to call him, but swallowed the words when they reached her lips, because she saw Mu Yunshan's sword, at some unknown time, return to his waist. That sword was glowing faintly in the rain. The light was very dim, impossible to see without looking carefully. Mu Yunshan suddenly spoke. Come down. The voice wasn't loud, but it just happened to be clear enough for Lin Qingxue to hear. She hesitated for a moment, put on an outer coat, and went downstairs, pushing open the back door of the inn. The rain rushed to her face, and Lin Qingxue shuddered. She walked quickly to Mu Yunshan's side. Senior, what are you doing? Waiting for someone. Waiting for whom? The sage won't come tonight. Mu Yunshan's gaze was still looking at the sky. I am waiting for someone else. Lin Qingxue followed his gaze and looked over. In the gray, gloomy night sky, there was nothing, but the next second, a streamer of light crossed the horizon. It wasn't a shooting star. It was a sword light, fast to the extreme, bright to the extreme, falling straight from the 9th heaven, dropping toward a certain direction in the first heaven. Something inside Lin Qingxue's body, the moment that sword light appeared, shuddered slightly, like a distant, ancient memory being awakened. That is, Lin Qingxue covered her chest, her face pale. Mu Yunshan looked at her, his gaze narrowing slightly. Awake? No, not awake. Lin Qingxue shook her head. But it is afraid, and yet it seems to be looking forward to it. Mu Yunshan retracted his gaze, and looked toward the direction where the sword light fell. The owner of that sword light is very strong. Lin Qingxue's eyes widened. Very strong? This man would also praise others as very strong? He didn't care about the sage realm. Could it be a quasi-emperor? Or? Lin Qingxue didn't dare to continue thinking. The rain fell heavier and heavier. Lin Qingxue stood in the rain, looking at the back of this man in white, suddenly feeling that she seemed to have been drawn into a major event far beyond her imagination. Is he here to catch us? No, let's go. Go back and sleep. Mu Yunshan turned around, and walked toward the inn. Lin Qingxue stood in the rain, dazed for a long while. Before following him, she returned to her room, took off her drenched outer coat, and burrowed into the quilt. The rain tapped against the window lattice, the sound crisp and monotonous. She closed her eyes, and the last scene that appeared in her mind was the back of Mu Yunshan standing in the rain. That back looked very powerful, but also very lonely. At the same time, on a barren mountain in the first heaven, a sword light fell, transforming into the figure of a middle-aged man. He wore a green robe, his face withered and thin, his eyes like stars, and a sword hung at his waist. The scabbard was simple and unadorned, without any decorations, but if anyone could see the patterns on that sword clearly, they would find that every line was a heavenly Tao law. Heavenly Sword Great Emperor, one of the most mysterious existences in the 9th heaven, his sword path connecting to divinity, not appearing in the world for 1,000 years, and at this moment, he stood on the barren mountain of the first heaven, looking toward the direction of that dilapidated inn in the distance, a smile rising at the corner of his mouth. Finally found one, who is the same as me. He reached out to catch a drop of rain. The rain turned into a tiny sword in his palm, spinning for a moment, before dissipating into the formless. Mu Yunshan, human sword immortal, not cultivating heavenly Tao, not cultivating boundary realms. Interesting. I hope you don't disappoint this emperor. The heavenly sword great emperor's figure vanished in the rain, as if he had never appeared. Only that tiny sword remained in place, transforming into a crystal-clear sword-shaped ice crystal, glowing quietly in the rain. Dawn had just broken, when Lin Qingxue was hooked awake by a fragrance. It wasn't a dream. There was truly a fragrance, drifting in through the door crack, rich and overbearing, like someone roasting a whole spiritual beast over a fire. She put on her coat, went out the door, and followed the fragrance downstairs. In the lobby of the inn, Mu Yunshan was sitting by the window, with a table full of food in front of him. Spiritual beast meat buns, immortal rice rice porridge, stir-fried spiritual vegetables, a pot of steaming spiritual tea, all crowded together, filling half the table. And opposite him, sat a middle-aged man in green, smiling at Mu Yunchen eating. Lin Qingshue's footsteps paused. That middle-aged man didn't have any aura, sitting there just like a mortal, but the slumbering power in Lin Qingshue's body trembled violently at this moment. Lin Qingshue's face turned pale, holding the handrail of the stairs to stand firm. Awake? Mu Yunchen didn't even look up, stuffing a bun in his mouth, mumbling, "Come and eat." The middle-aged man in green also looked at her, his gaze gentle, a smile on the corner of his mouth. That gaze fell on her, without any pressure, yet made Lin Qingxue feel that she was being seen through from inside out. Innate Tao body, not yet awakened. The middle-aged man in green spoke, his voice peaceful. "That old thing in the Zhao family has a good eye." Lin Qingshue's heart jumped, and she hurried over, sitting down next to Mu Yunchen. "Senior, who is this?" "Don't know," Mu Yunchen said. The middle-aged man in green didn't get angry, smiling. "That sword light last night, that was me." Lin Qingshue's pupils shrank. "You are Heavenly Sword." The middle-aged man in green picked up the spiritual tea, taking a light sip. "Others call me Heavenly Sword Great Emperor." Lin Qingshue's brain buzzed. Great Emperor, Heavenly Sword Great Emperor of the Ninth Heaven. The legendary Heavenly Sword Great Emperor whose sword path connects to divinity and who hasn't appeared in 1,000 years, was at this moment sitting in a broken inn in the first heaven, drinking tea with a person eating buns. She looked at Mu Yunchen. Mu Yunchen was still eating buns. 1, 2, 3, treating the words Great Emperor as nothing at all. "You aren't surprised?" Lin Qingshuo couldn't help asking. "What is there to be surprised about?" Mu Yunchen finally swallowed the bun in his mouth, mumbling, "He can't pay the bill for me." Heavenly Sword Great Emperor laughed out loud, his laughter clear, shaking the dust on the rafters down with a thud. "Interesting, interesting. This emperor has lived for so long, and this is the first time being treated as a meal ticket. Then help or not?" Mu Yunchen looked up at him. Heavenly Sword Great Emperor put away his smile, looking at him seriously. "Your sword path is the same as this emperor's, not cultivating heavenly Tao." Mu Yunchen didn't speak. "But what is different is, this emperor cultivated for tens of thousands of years to walk out of this path, while you, in a place like the human world, walked out of it by yourself." Heavenly Sword Great Emperor's gaze became profound. "This emperor wants to know, what is your sword path?" Mu Yunchen put down the teacup, thought about it, didn't think about it, didn't think about it. "Sword is just a sword," Mu Yunchen said. "I use it however I want to use it. No need for a name, no need for sword moves, no need for a realm." Heavenly Sword Great Emperor was silent for a long time. "You mean, this emperor thought too much?" "I don't know how much you thought." Mu Yunchen stood up, walked to the window. "But my sword won't think about why. He turned his head back, looking at Heavenly Sword Great Emperor. "You want to know my sword path? Simple." He reached out his hand, and the chopsticks on the table flew into his hand. Mu Yunchen held the chopsticks, and swung them casually toward the outside of the window. No sword light, no sword chi, no strange phenomena. But Heavenly Sword Great Emperor stood up abruptly. He saw it, the trajectory of that chopstick, sliced through a strand of Heavenly Tao rules, clean and neat, leaving no trace, as if that rule had never existed at all. "You." Heavenly Sword Great Emperor's voice was a bit unstable. The Heavenly Tao of the first heaven of the immortal realm was just about to manifest, but was stared back by Heavenly Sword Great Emperor with a single glare. "This is my sword." Mu Yunchen placed the chopsticks back on the table. "Regardless of Heavenly Tao rules, regardless of the level of boundary realms, whatever I want to cut, I cut." Heavenly Sword Great Emperor stood on the spot, not speaking for a long time, although he could also do it. But how many years had he cultivated? And this young man before his eyes? Outside the window, the gray, gloomy daylight of the first heaven spilled in, shining on that chopstick. A plain chopstick, bamboo made, the kind you can grab a handful of in an inn, with a little oil stain from the spirit beast meat still on it. It was this chopstick that had just severed a Heavenly Tao rule. Heavenly Sword Great Emperor took a deep breath, and slowly sat down. "Do you know what you just did?" "Cut a line," Mu Yunchen said. "It was blocking the front of the window, getting in the way." Heavenly Sword Great Emperor remained silent for a moment. "That was no ordinary line. That was the gravity rule of the first heaven of the immortal realm. You cut it. From now on, within a 10-mile radius, gravity is up to you." Mu Yunchen was stunned for a moment, looking outside the window. An old cultivator walking on the street suddenly drifted upward, 3 feet off the ground, waving his arms in panic. Mu Yunchen reached out and pressed down vaguely in the air. The old cultivator landed back on the ground with a bang, falling into a sitting position, then climbed up and left, grumbling. "All right, it's restored," Mu Yunchen said. Heavenly Sword Great Emperor watched this scene, his mouth twitching. He had lived for 100,000 years, seen countless stunning and brilliant people. Some opened the heavenly gate with one sword strike, some severed stars with one sword strike, some annihilated 10,000 laws with one sword strike, but never had anyone used a chopstick to sever a Heavenly Tao rule, just because it was blocking the front of the window. And after cutting it, he fixed the rule, by the way, not restored, but repaired, like tearing a thread, and then casually tying a knot. Although it functioned again, that rule was no longer the original one. It had been permeated by Mu Yunshan's Dao. From now on, the gravity rule within this 10-mile radius would carry Mu Yunshan's mark. This was also why the heavenly Dao of the first heaven had just wanted to manifest. Heavenly Sword Great Emperor looked at Mu Yunshan, and his eyes changed. No longer curiosity, no longer appreciation, but a kind of awe of the unknown. Your current strength is inferior to this emperor, Heavenly Sword Great Emperor said. Mu Yunshan nodded. Can't beat you. Clean and neat, without any dissatisfaction. Heavenly Sword Great Emperor frowned. Don't you feel ashamed? Why would I feel ashamed? Mu Yunshan asked in return. You have cultivated for 100,000 years. How many years have I cultivated? It's normal that I can't beat you. Heavenly Sword Great Emperor opened his mouth, at a loss for words for a moment. He had seen too many geniuses, each one with eyes growing on the top of their heads, refusing to accept anyone, insisting on determining who was higher or lower. But this young man, ridiculously strong, yet calmly admitted he was inferior to the great emperor. It wasn't humility. He truly didn't care. His Tao did not need to be proven by defeating anyone. Heavenly Sword Great Emperor suddenly smiled. Good, very good. This emperor has lived for 100,000 years, and finally met an interesting person again. He stood up, took something out of his sleeve, and placed it on the table. It was a sword-shaped jade pendant, entirely pitch black, without any luster. Take it. If you run into trouble later, crush it. This emperor will come. Mu Yunshan glanced at the jade pendant, without reaching for it. What are the conditions? No conditions, Heavenly Sword Great Emperor said. This emperor just doesn't want you to die too early. If you die, this immortal realm will be boring again. After speaking, his figure dissipated like smoke. He came with a flash of sword light, and left without a sound. The inn lobby returned to silence. Lin Qingxue sat in the chair, unable to regain her senses for a long time. Great Emperor, Heavenly Sword Great Emperor of the ninth heaven. He was just sitting opposite her, drinking the same pot of tea with her. Senior, Lin Qingxue's voice was a bit floating. Heavenly Sword Great Emperor, why did he come to find you? Don't know. Mu Yunshan put the sword-shaped jade pendant on the table into his sleeve, and picked up the bag of top-grade spirit stones, weighing it, probably because he was bored. Bored, having lived for 100,000 years, with everything that could be done finished. Could he not be bored? Mu Yunshan stood up. Let's go. Where to? Redeem the sword. Buy clothes. Stroll the streets. Are you serious? Mu Yunshan had already walked out of the inn door. Lin Qingxue sighed and followed him. That street was still there. The barbecue stall was still there. And that sword was still there. But the stall owner was not. Mu Yunshan walked up to the barbecue stall, seeing a little girl of 7 or 8 years old sitting on a small wooden bench behind the stall, holding the sword with both hands, staring with wide eyes. The little girl had 2 small pigtails, her cheeks round, a pair of eyes black and bright, her cultivation not high, probably only at the foundation establishment stage. The sword in her arms was longer than her entire body. Does it look good? Mu Yunshan asked. The little girl looked up, saw Mu Yunshan, and her eyes lit up. Big brother, is this your sword? It's so heavy, so heavy. The little girl gestured with both hands. Daddy said, this sword is heavier than all the swords he has ever seen. Mu Yunshan squatted down, level with the little girl's eyes. Where is your daddy? Went to get stock. The little girl said, he asked me to watch the stall, and also said if someone comes to redeem the sword, let him wait for a little while. Mu Yunshan said, oh, fished out a top-grade spirit stone from his sleeve, and placed it on the stall. Wait for him to return. Give him this. I'm taking the sword. The little girl looked at that crystal-clear stone, blinked her eyes. Big brother, what is this? Spirit stone. But, the little girl tilted her head. Daddy said one sword is pawned for 20 skewers of meat. 20 skewers of meat is 100 medium-grade spirit stones. This stone of yours, Daddy said, one piece can exchange for many. He can't give change for it. Mu Yunshan thought about it. Then don't give change. He reached out to take the sword. The little girl hugged the sword and wouldn't let go, saying earnestly, Daddy said people must be trustworthy. How much change should be given must be given. Big brother, you wait for a little while. Daddy will be back soon. Mu Yunshan looked at the little girl's earnest expression, and suddenly smiled. Fine, then I'll wait. He squatted down directly beside the stall. Lin Qingxue stood to the side, looking at this man who had killed a 9th tribulation realm with one sword strike, squatting beside a barbecue stall at this moment, eyeball to eyeball with a foundation establishment little girl. She felt she might still be dreaming. Senior, or maybe I should go first. You stay too. Mu Yunshan didn't even lift his head. Sit down and wait. She looked at the ground, then looked at her own bright red wedding dress. Forget it. She didn't plan to keep this wedding dress anyway. She lifted her skirt hem, and squatted down beside him. On the street of the first heaven, people came and went. A woman wearing a bright red wedding dress, a man in white like snow, squatting side by side next to a barbecue stall. Passing cultivators turned their heads one after another, whispering, what are those two doing? Don't know. Been squatting there for half a day. That woman is really beautiful, but wearing a wedding dress and squatting on the side of the road, it's quite miserable. Is that man next to her husband? Why doesn't he have any cultivation? A mortal? A mortal married a cultivator wife and is squatting on the side of the road? Tired of living? The discussions surged one after another. Lin Qingxue's face grew redder and redder. She had lived for more than 20 years, a legitimate daughter of the Lin family, a well-known beauty in the second heaven, When had she ever received this kind of treatment, squatting on the side of the road and being watched like a monkey? She secretly glanced at Mu Yunshan. Mu Yunshan was calm and composed, even chatting with the old man selling candied haws nearby. Grandpa, what kind of filling is this candied hawthorn? Spirit fruit filling. There are 3 flavors. Which one is delicious? All are delicious. Then bring me one of each. 3 medium-grade spirit stones. Can I put it on my tab? Didn't you just ask to put it on your tab over there? How did you know? The street is only that big. News travels fast. The fact that you wanted to put it on your tab yesterday, the whole street knows. Then why do you still ask me? I'm just confirming. Lin Qingxue buried her head lower. She now regretted immensely. Why didn't she bring any spirit stones when she went out yesterday? Even if she brought one, it would be fine. But she was also fortunate that this senior wasn't stupid enough to buy candied haws with a top-grade spirit stone. Coming, coming. The little girl suddenly cheered, jumping off the stool, and running into the distance. A burly man carrying 2 big bags of things walked over. It was the barbecue stall owner from yesterday. The little girl ran over, chattering away, and pointed toward Mu Yunshan's direction. The owner's face changed, and he walked over quickly. Great lord. He put down the things on his shoulders, cupped his hands and saluted. This small one didn't know you came so early. Sorry for the neglect. Sorry for the neglect. Mu Yunshan stood up, patted the dust off his clothes. No matter. I'm taking the sword. The spirit stone stays with you. He pointed to the top-grade spirit stone on the stall. The owner followed his finger and looked over, his whole person freezing. Top-grade spirit stone. He had been selling barbecue in the first heaven for 20 years, and had only touched high-grade spirit stones a few times. Now, a top-grade spirit stone was placed on his own stall. Great lord, this is too much. This sword was pawned for 20 skewers of meat, worth 100 medium-grade spirit stones. A few low-grade spirit stones would be enough. This top-grade spirit stone. Give the change to your daddy, Mu Yunshan said to the little girl. The owner was stunned for a moment. Mu Yunshan had already picked up the sword, turned, and left. Lin Qingxue hurried to follow. The owner stood in place, holding that top-grade spirit stone in his hands, unable to regain his senses for a long time. Daddy, the little girl tugged at his corner. That big brother said no need for change. The owner looked down at his daughter, then looked at the top-grade spirit stone in his hand, suddenly plopped to his knees. Benefactor, if you want to eat barbecue in the future, come find this small one. I can do others too. The voice rang through half the street. Mu Yunshan didn't even look back, just waved his hand. Lin Qingxue followed behind him, unable to help but look back. That burly man was kneeling on the ground, his eyes red. One top-grade spirit stone, for Mu Yunshan, was just a tip casually given by the heavenly sword great emperor. But for that barbecue stall owner, it was enough for his family to eat, wear, and use for several lifetimes. Senior, Lin Qingxue said softly, you did that on purpose, right? What on purpose? Intentionally giving so much. Mu Yunshan didn't answer, continuing to walk forward. Lin Qingxue looked at his back, the corners of her mouth curling up slightly. This person, saying he doesn't care about anything, is actually very soft-hearted. Where to next? Lin Qingxue asked. Buy clothes. Mu Yunshan glanced at her. Wearing this, too eye-catching. Lin Qingxue looked down at her wedding dress. Indeed, eye-catching. And running around the streets in a wedding dress. What does that look like? But I know, you have no money. Mu Yunshan fished a top-grade spirit stone from his sleeve. I have. Lin Qingxue looked at that spirit stone, wanting to say something but stopping. What's wrong, senior? This is a top-grade spirit stone. In a clothing shop in the first heaven, the most expensive piece of clothing is only a few dozen high-grade spirit stones. If you use a top-grade spirit stone to buy clothes, the shop owner won't be able to give change. Mu Yunshan frowned. Why are there so many unable to give change in the immortal realm? Because the denomination you give is too large. Then what to do? Lin Qingxue thought for a moment. First exchange it for smaller ones. There are spirit stone exchange houses in the first heaven, which can exchange top-grade spirit stones for high-grade, medium-grade, low-grade. Lead the way. The spirit stone exchange house was in the city center, a 3-story small building. The storefront wasn't big, but 2 Dharma Image Realm guards stood at the door. The layout was quite impressive. Mu Yunshan walked in. The clerk behind the counter lifted his eyes to look at him, then looked at Lin Qingxue behind him, his gaze pausing on Lin Qingxue's wedding dress for a moment, a trace of meaningful smile curling on the corner of his mouth. 2 guests, exchange spirit stones. Mu Yunshan placed a top-grade spirit stone on the counter. The clerk's smile froze. He picked up that spirit stone, checking it over and over again several times, his face becoming more and more grave. Lord, please wait a moment. He turned and went into the back room. A moment later, an old man with a goatee walked out, holding that top-grade spirit stone in his hand, his hands even trembling. This lord, the old man is the shopkeeper of this exchange house. Dare to ask, where did you obtain this spirit stone? Mu Yunshan looked at him. Given by someone. Given by someone. The shopkeeper's voice changed. Lord, do you know what grade this spirit stone is? This is not an ordinary top-grade spirit stone. This is a heavenly grade among top-grade spirit stones, with a purity reaching over 99%. Not even a second one can be found in the entire first heaven. Lin Qingxue gasped. She had just thought thought that the Heavenly Sword Great Emperor had given an ordinary top-grade spirit stone. Never expected it to be heavenly grade. 1 heavenly grade top-grade spirit stone is worth more than 10 ordinary top-grade spirit stones. In other words, Heavenly Sword Great Emperor had casually given them wealth equivalent to 1,000 ordinary top-grade spirit stones. 1,000. Enough for a small family to eat for 1,000 years. Mu Yunshan's expression didn't change. Can it be exchanged? Yes, 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 the shopkeeper said repeatedly. Lord, what denomination do you want to exchange for? Exchange for high-grade spirit stones. All right, 1 heavenly grade top-grade spirit stone, according to market price, can exchange for 120,000 high-grade spirit stones. The old man will fetch them for you. 120,000. Lin Qingxue felt she was a bit unsteady on her feet. Her Lin family had operated in the second heaven for over 1,000 years. All their assets combined totaled no more than 1 million high-grade spirit stones. And now, Mu Yunshan had 98 identical spirit stones hidden in his sleeve. Mu Yunshan took the storage bag handed by the shopkeeper, weighed it, and stuffed it into his sleeve casually. Let's go. Buy clothes. Lin Qingxue followed behind him, her steps floating. The clothing shop was in the east of the city, the largest one on the whole street. The plaque at the door was written with 3 large characters. Cloud Brocade Pavilion. Gilded. Quite impressive. Mu Yunshan walked in. The clerk in the shop immediately greeted them. 2 guests. Buying clothes or customizing? Our Cloud Brocade Pavilion has the best tailors in the first heaven, all using top-quality spiritual silkworm silk. Buy for her. Mu Yunshan pointed at Lin Qingxue. Pick a few. The clerk looked at Lin Qingxue, then looked at her wedding dress, his smile a bit subtle. This young lady, is she newly married? Lin Qingxue's face turned red instantly. No, she blurted out, then felt this answer was even stranger. She wasn't newly married. She was fleeing marriage. Fleeing marriage in a wedding dress. Who would believe that? Mu Yunshan was very calm. The wedding dress doesn't look good. Change it. The clerk sensibly didn't ask further, leading Lin Qingxue toward the back. Young lady, take a look at this side. This is the latest style in our shop, woven with spiritual silkworm silk from the 4th heaven, light and breathable, and can withstand a strike below the void-piercing realm. Lin Qingxue looked at those rows of gorgeous dresses, her eyes shining. When she was in the Lin family, although she didn't lack food and clothes, the Lin family wasn't generous to her. This bargaining chip. She only had those few sets of clothes all year round, styles old and materials average. Now, every single dress here was 10 times better than the best one in her wardrobe. How much for this one? She pointed at a moon-white long dress. 300 high-grade spirit stones. Lin Qingxue's hand shook, and she withdrew it. 300 high-grade spirit stones. Enough for the Lin family's monthly expenses. Too expensive. Not expensive. Mu Yunshan's voice came from behind. Buy it. Lin Qingxue looked back at him. Mu Yunshan was leaning against the door frame, arms crossed, his expression indifferent. Pick whichever you like. Don't care about the price. Lin Qingxue bit her lip, and pointed at another light green one. What about this one? 280. Buy it too. This blue one? 350. Buy it. This one? Buy it. The clerk's eyes grew wider and wider, his smile more and more brilliant. Lin Qingxue picked 6 in one go, totaling nearly 2,000 high-grade spirit stones. She wanted to continue picking, but felt really embarrassed. Enough, enough. These are enough. Determined? Mu Yunshan asked. Determined. Then these. Mu Yunshan fished out the storage bag from his sleeve. How much? The clerk calculated quickly. Total 980 high-grade spirit stones. Does the guest want to pay in spirit stones or put it on the tab? Pay. Mu Yunshan counted out 2,000 high-grade spirit stones, placing them on the counter. No need for change. The clerk was stunned for a second, then smiled like a flower. All right, guest, please wait a moment. This small one will wrap them up for you. Lin Qingxue looked at that pile of spirit stones, her heart bleeding. 2,000 high-grade spirit stones. 20 high-grade spirit stones as a tip? She had never spent so much money in her life, and it wasn't even her own money. Senior, this is too wasteful. Not wasteful, Mu Yunshan said. Anyway, it isn't mine. It seemed it really wasn't his. It was the Heavenly Sword Great Emperor's. But why did saying this out loud sound so annoying? You go in and change first. Mu Yunshan pointed at the fitting room at the back of the shop. Wearing this wedding dress, I find it annoying to look at. Lin Qingxue held the pile of clothes, face red, and dove into the fitting room. A moment later, she came out. She had changed into a moon-white long dress, her waist tied with a silver silk ribbon, long hair tied up with a jade hairpin. Without the burden of the phoenix coronet and robes, the whole person seemed to have unloaded some heavy burden. The congestion between her brows had dispersed more than half. She stood before the mirror, hardly daring to believe the person she saw was herself. Not bad, Mu Yunshan said. Lin Qingxue looked at him from the mirror. Just not bad? The clothes are not bad. Lin Qingxue was stunned for a moment, then understood what he meant. Clothes are not bad, meaning the person was naturally beautiful. Nothing to do with the clothes. Her face turned red again. Let's go. Let's stroll some more. Mu Yunshan turned and walked out. Still strolling? Buy some food. You were obsessed with candied haws just now. Very obsessed. In the next hour, Lin Qingxue witnessed what it meant to stroll. Not a woman strolling, but Mu Yunshan strolling. Every stall he saw selling food. food, he had to stop and take a look. If it pleased his eye, he bought it. If it didn't please his eye, he also bought it. The reason was, since I'm here, candied haws, spiritual beast meat skewers, immortal rice cakes, tremella sugar water, grilled spirit fish, honey preserved spirit fruits. Lin Qingshue's hands were both full of paper bags, and he was still buying. Senior, that's enough, right? Can't finish it. If I can't finish it, I'll eat it tomorrow. It won't be fresh tomorrow. Put it in the storage ring. Lin Qingxue took a deep breath, deciding to change tactics. Senior, the Zhao family sage is still secretly watching us. If you stroll so openly, will it be too ostentatious? Too what? Too ostentatious. Mu Yunshun bit into a candied hawthorn, mumbling, it is precisely to let him see. Lin Qingxue was stunned. Why? He is in the dark. We are in the light. He can see us. We can't see him. This is not good. So you deliberately strolled, so he could keep watching. What's the use of that? Mu Yunshun chewed the candied hawthorn, his gaze inadvertently sweeping over a shadow in a street corner. He will become more and more eager to make a move, and then he will make a mistake. Mu Yunshun bit off the last candied hawthorn, and threw the bamboo skewer casually, precisely falling into the trash can by the street. Sages live for nearly 10,000 years. Their greatest ability is patience. But patience is not infinite. He sees me strolling in the first heaven, eating meat, buying clothes, living comfortably. He will become more and more anxious. The more anxious he gets, the easier it is for him to reveal a flaw. Lin Qingxue looked at Mu Yunshun, suddenly feeling that this person wasn't crazy at all. Every step he took was with purpose. Stealing the bride, descending to the lower realm, strolling, redeeming the sword, buying clothes, looking like he was doing whatever he pleased. But actually, he was laying out a plan. He was inducing the Zhao family sage to make a move, and that Zhao family sage might still think he was the hunter until now. Senior, Lin Qingxue said softly, are you not afraid he will harm innocent people? Mu Yunshun remained silent for a moment. He won't. Why? Because his target is you. Before you are hidden by me, he won't startle the snake. Harming innocent people will attract the attention of the patrol angels of the first heaven. Although the first heaven is weak, standing behind the patrol angels is the second heaven, the third heaven, reporting layer by layer, and finally it will alarm the higher levels. Although the Zhao family is a sage family of the fourth heaven, they don't want to blow things up. He wants you, not a war. He also wouldn't hope for so many people to know of your existence. Lin Qingxue finished listening, feeling much more settled in her heart. Let's go. Buy another pair of shoes. Mu Yunshun said. Still buying? Those shoes don't match your dress. Lin Qingxue looked down at her embroidered shoes. Big red embroidered shoes, matching a moon-white long dress. Indeed, they didn't match. She sighed, and followed him. This man, saying her wedding dress was eye-catching, saying her shoes didn't match, saying her clothes were just not bad. Does he care about her, or does he not care? She couldn't say clearly, but there was one thing she was very clear about. That is, being by his side. She felt very safe. In the shadow of the street corner, Zhao Tianhe retracted his gaze, a trace of sinister coldness flashing on his withered face. He had been following in the dark for a whole day, watching that man in white stroll, eat meat, buy clothes, coax little girls, watching that woman change out of her wedding dress, reveal a smile, watching them live comfortably in the first heaven like they were okay. His patience was being worn down bit by bit. Mu Yunshun. Zhao Tianhe murmured this name in a low voice, cold light flickering in his eyes. He originally wanted to wait for a better opportunity, wait for that man to relax his vigilance, wait for that woman to be alone. But that man never had a moment of relaxing his vigilance. He looked like he was strolling, but actually, every moment he was perceiving everything around him. Zhao Tianhe wanted to strike several times, but gave up at the very last moment, because that man's hand never once left the hilt of his sword. It was a habit of that sword, being a part of his body. This kind of habit, he had only seen in those ancient sword cultivators, and those sword cultivators, every single one was an existence capable of transcending tears. Wait a little longer. Zhao Tianhe took a deep breath, suppressing the restlessness in his heart. He didn't believe that person had no flaws. No one has no flaws. As long as he continues to wait, flaws will definitely appear. Zhao Tianhe's figure once again blended into the darkness. But what he didn't know was that, the moment he turned around, Mu Yunshun, who was picking out shoes in the distance, curled his mouth slightly. The fish is about to take the bait. After buying the shoes, Mu Yunshun strolled 3 more streets. Lin Qingxue carried a dozen paper bags of various sizes in her hands, containing clothes, shoes, hair accessories, rouge and powder, and even a new comb. Senior, really can't carry anymore. Lin Qingxue's voice carried a trace of entreaty. Don't you have that storage ring? Mu Yunshun looked at her fingers. Lin Qingxue looked down at her own empty fingers, and was silent. Storage ring. The Lin family provided every legitimate descendant with a storage ring, but hers was taken away before she was married off. Lin family's things, they have all been taken back. Her tone was flat, but there was a bitterness in the bottom of her eyes. Mu Yunshun looked at her for 2 seconds, turned, and walked into a Dharma artifact shop by the road. A moment later, he came out, with a silver storage ring in his hand. Reach out. Lin Qingxue was stunned for a moment, obeyingly extending her left hand. Mu Yunshun put the storage ring ring on her ring finger. The size was just right, with fine formation patterns engraved on the ring surface. Much better than the one given by the Lin family. It has 10,000 high-grade spirit stones inside. Spend them first. Lin Qingxue looked down at the silver ring on her finger. The workmanship was exquisite. Senior, this is too precious. You help me hold things. Mu Yunshan interrupted her. I'm too lazy to carry them. Lin Qingxue looked at the dozen paper bags she was holding in both hands, then looked at Mu Yunshan, who had no hands full. Fine. She put everything into the storage ring, wiped her finger lightly across the ring surface, and all the weight disappeared instantly. This feeling, really good. Let's go. Find a place to eat. Mu Yunshan said. Eat again. Strolled until tired. Naturally need to eat. Lin Qingxue looked at the time. Just past noon. They had strolled from morning until now. 8 candied haws, meat skewers, immortal rice cakes, sugar water. She wasn't hungry at all. But Mu Yunshan said he was hungry. So he was hungry. The two entered a wine house by the street. The frontage wasn't big, but it was noisy inside. Smoke and fog curling. The wine houses of the first heaven were not like the immortal realm, more like the tea houses of the mortal world, where ascended cultivators gathered together to drink, chat, and boast, speaking of the prices of the immortal realm, cursing the oppression of the upper heavens, and yearning for the scenery of the mortal world. Mu Yunshan found a seat by the window. The shop assistant ran over eagerly. 2 guests. What would you like to eat? Our house's signature dish is steamed spirit mandarin fish, using fish raised from the spiritual springs of the third heaven. It is very fresh. Bring one, Mu Yunshan said, and pair it with a few other dishes, and a pot of wine. All right. The shop assistant was about to leave. Lin Qingxue called him to stop. Wait, how much? The shop assistant laughed. Not expensive, totaling 500 medium-grade spirit stones. Mu Yunshan fished a top-grade spirit stone from his sleeve and threw it on the table. Pay first. Keep the extra. The shop assistant's eyes brightened, collected the spirit stone, and ran away fast. The other guests in the wine house started to notice them. A mortal without any realm casually took out a top-grade spirit stone, sitting in a wine house in the first heaven, with a pot of immortal wine in front of him, waiting to eat steamed spirit mandarin fish, with a beauty of the spirit platform realm sitting beside him, calling him senior respectfully. This picture, how one looked at it, the more weird it was. What's the background of that mortal? A burly man at the neighboring table asked his companion in a low voice. Don't know. Can't see through him. Probably some young master from a big power, with a magical artifact on his body to hide his aura. Doesn't look like it. Look at his aura. He doesn't look like he's hiding a magical artifact, but truly has no cultivation. No cultivation? Then why does that woman next to him call him senior? You don't understand this. Maybe it's a son of a noble family in the human world, bringing a bodyguard who isn't even in the Dharma image realm to strut around in the first heaven, tired of living. The discussions weren't loud, but Lin Qingxue heard them clearly. She looked at Mu Yunshan. Mu Yunshan was holding his wine glass, drinking unhurriedly, completely unconcerned. The food and wine arrived. Steamed spirit mandarin fish, the fish body crystal clear, emitting a faint spiritual glow. Side dishes included stir-fried spiritual mushrooms with immortal bamboo shoots, clear stewed spirit pigeon soup, and a plate of assorted spiritual fruits. Mu Yunshan picked up a chopstick of fish, narrowed his eyes. Not bad. A bit more spiritual energy than the fish in the human world, but a bit less of that earthy taste. Lin Qingxue also tasted a piece. The fish meat melted in her mouth, so fresh she almost bit her tongue. She had never eaten anything so delicious. In the Lin family, her food was always standard. Good spiritual ingredients were given to the geniuses of the clan, and she, a legitimate daughter with mediocre aptitude, was lucky to have enough to eat. Eat more. Mu Yunshan put the meat from the fish belly into her bowl. You are too thin. Lin Qingxue looked down at the fish meat in her bowl. Her nose sore. She couldn't say why. Maybe it had been too long since someone had been good to her. Maybe because this stranger was better to her than her own biological father. Many thanks, senior, she said softly. Mu Yunshan did not answer, continuing to eat the fish. Just at this moment, a commotion came from the entrance of the restaurant. Make way, make way. The people from the Ji family are here. What? The Ji family? The Ji family, one of the 4 great clans of the first heaven. Don't block the path. Hurry, make way. The originally lively restaurant instantly fell mostly silent. Guests at the tables near the entrance stood up one after another to yield their seats, their movements as fast as if their backsides were on fire. 4 extravagantly dressed young people walked in. Leading them was a youth who looked to be in his early 20s, with handsome features, but carrying an uncomfortable arrogance between his brows. He had the cultivation of the mid-stage Dharma image realm, which counted as an expert in the first heaven. Following him were 2 men and 1 woman, also in the Dharma image realm, wearing unified white-bottomed robes with golden patterns, a large G character embroidered on their chests. Yo, isn't this Lin Qingxue from the Lin family? The leading youth saw Lin Qingxue at a glance, his eyes lighting up, and he walked straight over. Lin Qingxue's face changed slightly. She put down her chopsticks, stood up, and gave a salute. Young Master Ji. What, Young Master Ji? How distant? Young Master Ji walked closer with a smile. Just call me Zixuan. Our 2 families are old acquaintances. I even held you when you were a child. Lin Qingxue's brows furrowed imperceptibly. Old acquaintances? The Lin family and the Ji family were barely on nodding terms. Where did this old acquaintance words come from? Held her, why didn't she remember? Ji Zixuan's gaze circled around Lin Qingxue, from her moon-white long dress to the silver storage ring, and finally, landed on Mu Yunshan beside her. And this is? His tone carried obvious scrutiny. This is my. Lin Qingxue paused, not knowing how to introduce Mu Yunshan. Life-saving benefactor, friend, senior, or friend. Mu Yunshan answered for her. He didn't even lift his head, lowering his head to continue eating the fish. Ji Zixuan frowned. A mortal, sitting in front of him eating fish, not even standing up. Friend? Ji Zixuan's voice grew colder. Qingxue, you only married the Zhao family's young master yesterday. Why have you run to the first heaven today, and making friends with a mortal? 2. If the Zhao family finds out about this, the affairs of the Zhao family have nothing to do with young Master Ji. Lin Qingxue's voice also turned cold. She didn't like this person, didn't like the way he looked at her, didn't like him calling her Qingxue, and liked even less the gloating tone when he mentioned the Zhao family. How could it have nothing to do with me? Ji Zixuan's smile deepened. Qingxue, you don't know, do you? My Ji family and the Zhao family are also related by marriage. Strictly speaking, Zhao Lingyun is my cousin. You married my cousin. We can be considered one family. He paused, his gaze falling on Mu Yunshan, saying meaningfully, one family, naturally should care about each other. You followed a mortal and ran to the first heaven. If this gets out, it's bad for the Lin family's reputation, and even worse for the Zhao family's reputation. Lin Qingxue's fingers tightened. When she was in the Lin family, she was treated as a bargaining chip. Now that she was outside, she was still being pressured by family reputation. So, she lifted her head, looking straight at Ji Zixuan. What does young Master Ji want? Come back with me. Ji Zixuan reached out his hand. I will personally escort you back to the Zhao family, guaranteeing that no one will gossip. The air in the restaurant seemed to solidify. Everyone was watching this scene. The legitimate son of the Ji family, one of the 4 great clans of the first heaven, wanted to take away a bride who had fled her marriage, while beside that bride was only a mortal eating fish. Lin Qingxue did not reach out her hand. She looked at Mu Yunshan. Mu Yunshan was still eating fish, as if everything happening before his eyes had nothing to do with him. Senior. Lin Qingxue spoke softly. Ji Zixuan's gaze also shifted to Mu Yunshan, a trace of disdainful smile at the corner of his mouth. Senior, a mortal, is worthy of being called senior? The female cultivator behind him chuckled. Senior brother, maybe he's some big shot in the mortal world, a martial saint, a sword immortal, ha ha ha. The laughter was ear-piercing. Mu Yunshan finally put down his chopsticks. He picked up his wine glass, drank slowly, and then looked up at Ji Zixuan. Are you done? Ji Zixuan was stunned. He had seen many people's attitudes toward him, toadying, fearful, respectful, flattering, but never had anyone spoken to him in this tone, as if asking a mischievous child if he had finished throwing a tantrum. Do you know who you are talking to? Ji Zixuan's voice sank. The mid-stage Dharma image realm aura was released, pressing toward Mu Yunshan. The restaurant windows buzzed. Several low cultivation guests turned pale, hurrying to run outside. Mu Yunshan remained motionless. Those pressures reached in front of him, like water meeting a rock, separating automatically. Ji Zixuan's pupils contracted. A bit of talent, after all. He withdrew his aura, and changed his strategy, turning to look at Lin Qingxue. Qingxue, this mortal is a bit strange, but the first heaven is not a place where he can stay. I advise you. You can't advise her. Mu Yunshan interrupted him. He put down his wine glass, and stood up. His movements were very slow, very casual, but the 3 people behind Ji Zixuan took a step back simultaneously. They themselves didn't even realize they were retreating. That was their bodies instinctively feeling danger. Ji Zixuan's face turned livid. He felt his dignity had been challenged. In the first heaven, no one had ever dared to treat him with such disrespect. You mortal, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Before the words fell, he met Mu Yunshan's gaze. There was no anger in those eyes, no killing intent, no other excess things, but Ji Zixuan's words were stuck in his throat. He couldn't say them. It was as if something had pinched his vocal cords. As long as he dared to make another syllable, he would die. That feeling was unstoppable. Cold sweat seeped from Ji Zixuan's forehead. The 3 people behind him also felt something was wrong, their hands pressing on their Dharma artifacts, but not one of them dared to move. The restaurant was quiet enough to hear the crackling of the oil lamp. Ji family? Mu Yunshan spoke. Never heard of them. He sat down again, picked up his chopsticks, and picked up a piece of fish. Leave. Don't disturb my meal. Ji Zixuan's face alternated between blue and white, standing on the spot. Leaving was not an option. Staying was not an option. If he left, where would the Ji family's face go? If he didn't leave, this mortal gave him a feeling that was too eerie. That intuition of dying at any moment was frantically pulling the alarm. He had lived for nearly 300 years, and had never been so humiliated. Senior brother, the female cultivator behind him whispered. Let's go back first, and consider this from a long-term perspective. Ji Zixuan gritted his teeth, and turned to walk away. The moment he walked out the door of the restaurant, he realized his back was completely soaked. Go, investigate the background of that mortal, Ji Zixuan said in a low voice. I want to know everything about him. Yes. The 4 people hurried away. The restaurant became lively again, but everyone was secretly looking at Mu Yunshan, a bit more awe and curiosity in their eyes. Lin Qingxue sat opposite Mu Yunshan, her heart beating very fast. She knew Mu Yunshan was very strong, strong enough to kill a ninth tribulation realm in seconds. But seeing him personally without even lifting his hand, without even saying a word, scared Ji Zishuan away. That shock was still a bit different. At the same time, first heaven, above the void, a vague consciousness was wandering. This was the heavenly Tao of the first heaven. It had no specific form, no sound, no color, just a blurry existence, enveloping the entire first heaven. It was very busy, processing countless affairs every day, adjusting spiritual energy concentration, maintaining gravity rules, approving the aptitude of ascenders, balancing the luck of various forces. But today, it couldn't process anything, because it saw something that shouldn't have appeared here. No, not a thing. It was a person without a boundary realm, a person who didn't belong to the immortal realm rule system, a person who made it feel uneasy. The heavenly Tao of the first heaven had no emotions, but it had something similar to an instinct that would react to certain anomalies. Mu Yunshan was that anomaly, the biggest anomaly. It watched Mu Yunshan chatting and laughing with Heavenly Sword Great Emperor. It watched Mu Yunshan eating fish, drinking wine, talking with Lin Qingxue in the restaurant. It saw Ji Zishuan go to provoke him, and be forced back with one glance. It saw the trait in Mu Yunshan of ignoring the rules. Then it remembered the message sent from the heavenly Tao of the human world. The message was short, but between the lines, it was filled with an emotion the heavenly Tao of the first heaven had never seen before. A sense of relief. The human heavenly Tao said, "That evil star has gone to your side. Take care." At the time, the first heaven's heavenly Tao didn't take it to heart. Heavenly Tao of the human world. A rule consciousness of a low-dimensional world. How strong could it be? The evil star sent by it. How terrible could it be? Now it knew. The human heavenly Tao wasn't joking. That evil star was truly evil. The first heaven's heavenly Tao was silent for a long time, and then made a decision. It wouldn't provoke him. No matter what he did, no matter how big of a commotion he made, it wouldn't care. Anyway, it couldn't manage him. The rules of the first heaven were ineffective on him, and its intervention would be in vain. Better to treat him as if he didn't exist. Just treat it as the first heaven having an extra old monster living in seclusion. The first heaven's heavenly Tao retracted its consciousness, and continued to deal with daily affairs, but it left a wisp of attention, always placed on Mu Yunshan, not to monitor, but to warn. If that evil star made any big moves, at least it could be prepared in advance. For example, run. At this moment, the Ji family, eastern territory of the first heaven, an estate occupying over 1,000 miles, enveloped in spiritual mist, pavilions and towers. In the deliberation hall, Ji Zishuan stood below, his face unsightly. Seated at the head was a white-haired old man, his face majestic, eyes like electricity, the ancestor of the Ji family, Ji Wujiu, having the cultivation of the ninth tribulation of the Jieluan realm, an absolute overlord-level existence in the first heaven. You mean, you looked at a mortal, and then you retreated? Ji Wujiu's voice wasn't loud, but every word hit Ji Zishuan's heart like a hammer. Ancestor, that person is definitely not a mortal. Ji Zishuan gritted his teeth, his eyes. I can't describe it. It was as if I dared to say one more word, he would kill me. That was killing intent? Not killing intent. I can feel killing intent. It would be angry. It would resist. That feeling. Ji Zishuan searched his brains for words, but couldn't find one to describe his current mood. He looked at me. I retreated. Not that I wanted to retreat, but I had to retreat. The hall was silent for a moment. Ji Wujiu narrowed his eyes. Interesting. He had lived for thousands of years, seen countless strange people, but a mortal who could make a Dharma image realm cultivator feel they had to feel something. He hadn't seen one yet. Where is that person now? Still in the restaurant in the city, together with Lin Qingxue of the Lin family. Lin Qingxue? Ji Wujiu frowned. The Zhao family's bride? Exactly. She fled marriage, and followed that mortal here. Ji Wujiu was silent for a moment, then suddenly smiled. If the Zhao family knew their own bride had been abducted by a mortal, what expression would be on their faces? Ancestor, what do you mean? Don't rush to make a move. Ji Wujiu waved his hand. First find out the background of that mortal. If he really is just a slightly strange mortal, then capture him, and send him to the Zhao family. Sell a favor. If there is some power behind him. Ji Wujiu paused, his gaze becoming profound. Then it is even more necessary to find out clearly. Yes. Ji Zishuan accepted the order, and turned to leave. Wait. Ji Wujiu called him back. What is that mortal called? Seems to be Mu Yunshan. Mu Yunshan. Ji Wujiu recited this name once, feeling a bit familiar, but couldn't recall where he had heard it for a moment. Go. Ji Zishuan exited the hall, letting out a long breath. In his mind, that look from Mu Yunshan appeared again, making him shiver involuntarily. He always felt that he might have kicked an iron plate this time. The pressure given by the ancestor wasn't even this strong, but he didn't dare to say it. Restaurant. Mu Yunshan finished the whole fish, drank the whole pot of wine, contentedly leaning against the back of the chair. The wine in this place is acceptable. It's just the lingering effect is not enough. Lin Qingxue looked at him, wanting to speak but stopping. Ask if you want to ask. Senior. Regarding Ji Zishuan just now, why didn't you strike directly? Why should I strike? Mu Yunshan asked in return. He offended you. He said a few words. I didn't feel offended. Mu Yunshan said. If he had struck, I would have struck back. But he just said a few words, and I killed him. Wouldn't that make me a devil? Lin Qingxue was stunned for a moment. She had grown up in the Lin family, accustomed to the law of the jungle, the strong beating and killing the weak. No one would feel it was wrong. But Mu Yunshan was different. He had the power to crush everything, but he didn't easily kill. He disdained killing those people. Moreover, Mu Yunshan added, if I killed him, the Ji family would send more people, killing them one by one. It's too annoying. So it wasn't because of mercy, but because he found it troublesome. Then what do you plan to do? Wait for them to come find me, or I'll go find them. Mu Yunshan was thinking about something. Senior, I suddenly feel he offended me. I don't like his tone. Great emperors talk to me politely. What gives him the right? Lin Qingxue looked at Mu Yunshan, always feeling something was wrong. Just a moment ago he said he didn't feel offended. Now he says, what gives him the right? This contrast before and after was too big, wasn't it? Senior, she asked cautiously, are you angry because he offended you, or because of something else? Mu Yunshan picked up his wine glass, thought for a while. Both. First, I don't like his tone. Second, I don't like the look in his eyes when he looks at you. Third, when he said he was some big shot in the mortal world, he smiled. Lin Qingxue was stunned. It wasn't because of the first, nor because of the second, but because of the third. That person smiled. So Mu Yunshan was unhappy, not because he was mocked, but because that person was laughing at the matter itself. It was like a child mocking a mountain for not being high enough. The mountain wouldn't be angry, but would find it laughable. And Mu Yunshan probably felt it wasn't even worth finding laughable. He just simply felt, that person shouldn't smile. This logic, Lin Qingxue thought for a long time and still couldn't understand, but she decided not to think about it. Being with this person, thinking too much would easily give her a headache. Then senior, how do you plan to go to the Ji family? Walk there. I mean, how do you plan to handle it? Strike straight in? Mu Yunshan glanced at her, like looking at someone who asked a strange question. Why would I strike in? Didn't you say? I said go find them. Didn't say strike them. Mu Yunshan put down his wine glass, stood up. Courtesy before soldiers. Understand? Lin Qingxue opened her mouth, wanting to say that you, a bride-stealing person, were going to talk about courtesy with the local bully of the first heaven, but swallowed the words when they reached her lips. Forget it. Whatever he says. The two walked out of the restaurant, following the street eastward. The Ji family estate was in the eastern territory, occupying 1,000 miles, but the entrance was before a mountain gate in the east of the city. The street of the first heaven wasn't wide, but very long. Walking from the restaurant to the city's east mountain gate took nearly half an hour. Lin Qingxue followed behind Mu Yunshan, looking at his back, suddenly remembering one thing. Senior, the sentence you said in the restaurant just now. Great emperors talk to me politely. When did Heavenly Sword Great Emperor talk to you politely? He invited me to eat, and gave me spirit stones. Is that not polite? Lin Qingxue took a deep breath. She couldn't refute it, because it was the truth. The Great Emperor helping a mortal pay, and even giving a bag of top-grade spirit stones. Quasi-emperors probably didn't have this treatment. She decided not to struggle with this person's wording anymore. Whatever he says. City East Mountain Gate. 2 stone pillars soared into the clouds. In the middle was a light curtain where spiritual light flowed. Behind the light curtain was the Ji family estate. Standing before the mountain gate were 4 guards, all with Dharma image realm cultivation, counting as experts in the first heaven. The 4 saw Mu Yunshan and Lin Qingxue walk over, their gazes immediately locking onto them. Stop. Who are you? Mu Yunshan stopped, looked at that light curtain. Mu Yunshan, here to find Ji Zixuan. The guards were stunned. Find Ji Zixuan, the legitimate young master of the Ji family? They sized up Mu Yunshan. White clothes, no cultivation, a sword without a scabbard hanging at his waist. The woman beside him had the spirit platform realm cultivation, looked extremely beautiful, but spirit platform realm wasn't anything in the first heaven. What business do you have with young Master Ji? The guard's tone carried obvious suspicion. He disturbed my meal in the restaurant just now. I came to ask him if he should apologize. The air was silent for a second, and then all 4 guards laughed at the same time, as if they had heard the biggest joke on earth. You, a mortal, making young Master Ji apologize to you? The leading guard laughed until tears were almost coming out. Brother, did you drink too much? If you've drunk too much, go to the side to sober up. Mu Yunshan didn't speak. He just looked at that guard. The guard's laughter gradually grew smaller, not because he didn't want to laugh anymore, but because he realized he couldn't laugh. His throat seemed to be blocked by something. The laughter stuck in his throat, turning into a strange cackle. The other 3 guards also felt something was wrong. The air in front of the mountain gate suddenly became very heavy. Not pressure, but something more essential. It seemed as if this space suddenly didn't want them to laugh. You. The leading guard's face turned pale, his hand pressing on the Dharma artifact at his waist. Mu Yunshan withdrew his gaze. Go report. Just say Mu Yunshan has arrived. The guard opened his mouth, wanting to say, who do you think you are? But facing Mu Yunshan's gaze, that sentence just wouldn't come out. His body was more honest than his mouth. Wait a moment. The guard turned and ran into the light curtain. The remaining 3 guards stood where they were, looking at each other. No one dared to move. They didn't know why they didn't dare to move, but they just didn't dare. That white-clothed man stood there, doing nothing, not even looking at them, but their feet seemed to be nailed to the ground. Lin Qingxue stood behind Mu Yunshan, watching all this, feeling a sensation in her her heart she couldn't describe. She didn't feel any pressure, didn't feel any discomfort, but the guards' faces were like seeing a ghost. Senior, what did you do to them? Nothing, Mu Yunshun said. Let them be quiet for a while. Quiet? It was too noisy just now, and I didn't drink too much. Lin Qingxue was silent for a moment. She felt that the quiet, Mu Yunshun said, and the quiet she understood, might not be the same thing. A moment later, the light curtain rippled. The guard ran out, his face looking even worse than when he went in. Ji, young Master Ji says, not meeting. Mu Yunshun said, oh, he also says. The guard swallowed his saliva. He says a mortal has no qualification to enter the Ji family gate. Let him go back where he came from. Don't be an eyesore here. Mu Yunshun nodded, seemingly confirming something. Then he doesn't intend to apologize. The guard didn't know what to say. He was just a messenger, not wanting to be involved in this kind of affair. But looking at Mu Yunshun's expression, he suddenly felt that this mortal might really not be a mortal, because after being rejected, he had no anger, no disappointment, no extra expression, just accepted a fact very calmly, and then did a thing everyone didn't expect. Mu Yunshun stepped forward, walking toward the light curtain. What are you doing? The guard instinctively blocked him. He doesn't come out, so I'll go in. Mu Yunshun said, it's the same, you can't go in. This is the Ji family. Mu Yunshun glanced at him. The guard's words stuck in his throat again. And then, he watched Mu Yunshun walk into the light curtain. The light curtain didn't repel him. The Ji family's great mountain protecting array, the top 3 defensive array in the first heaven, had no reaction to Mu Yunshun, as if he didn't exist, or as if he existed, but the array didn't feel he was a threat. The guard stood stunned on the spot, his mind blank. This is impossible, he muttered to himself. The great mountain protecting array automatically identifies invaders. Anyone entering without authorization would trigger an alarm and attack. But when Mu Yunshun walked in, the array did nothing. No alarm, no attack, not even a ripple. It was as if he was originally one of the Ji family. No, even more absurd than that. It was as if the array couldn't sense him. Lin Qingxue was also stunned, but she reacted faster, hurrying to follow. When she walked into the light curtain, the array fluctuated slightly, but didn't stop her, because she had Mu Yunshun's aura on her. That aura of ignoring rules. The moment she walked into the light curtain, it briefly covered her. The guard watched the 2 people's backs disappear into the light curtain, his legs going soft, sitting on the ground. Big trouble is here. Ji family estate, deliberation hall. Ji Zixuan was sitting in a chair, crossing his legs, holding a cup of spirit tea. His mood not bad. That mortal really didn't dare to come in. A waste without a realm, also worthy of making him apologize. He was just thinking about whether to treat this as a joke to tell his friends, when a servant ran in a flustered state. Young master, big trouble. What's the matter? Flustered, Ji Zixuan frowned. That person entered. Who entered? That mortal, Mu Yunshun. He entered. The teacup in Ji Zixuan's hand dropped onto the ground with a pop. What did you say? He entered. The great mountain protecting array had no reaction. The guards couldn't stop him. He is walking over here now. Ji Zixuan's face turned livid instantly. He remembered that look in the restaurant. That feeling of dying at any moment surged up again. Stop him for me. Young master, can't stop him. The guards don't dare to get close to him. A bunch of waste. Ji Zixuan stood up abruptly, kicking over the table in front of him. He took a few deep breaths, forcing himself to calm down. This was the Ji family, his territory. There was an ancestor of the Nirvana realm sitting in the clan, as well as experts of the void-piercing realm and Jieluan realm. A mortal, no matter how strange. What kind of waves could he make? Go, notify the great elder. Activate the great clan protecting array. Ji Zixuan's voice recovered its steadiness. And, call all the clansmen above the Dharma image realm who are at home. Yes. The servant accepted the order and left. Ji Zixuan stood in the center of the hall, clenching his fists. Mu Yunshun, since you dare to come, I will let you know that the Ji family is not a place where you can run wild. On the main road of the estate, Mu Yunshun walked unhurriedly. Lin Qingxue followed behind him, her heart beating fast. Spiritual flowers and strange herbs on both sides, pavilions and towers. She wasn't in the mood to look. Her attention was entirely on that cluster of buildings getting closer ahead. There, at least dozens of Dharma image realm auras, and a few more powerful auras. Fathomless. Senior, are we really going in? Already in. But, what are you afraid of? Lin Qingxue bit her lip. I am afraid you will kill too many people. Mu Yunshun looked back at her. You are more worried about me than I am about myself. I am not worried about you. I am worried about. Lin Qingxue paused. Although the Ji family is hateful, there are innocent people in the clan. Those servants, maids, and young disciples. They didn't do anything. Mu Yunshun remained silent for a moment. I won't kill them. Lin Qingxue was stunned. You, really? I came to find Ji Zixuan, not to slaughter the clan. Mu Yunshun continued walking. If he is sensible, and apologizes, this matter will pass. What if he isn't sensible? Mu Yunshun didn't answer, but Lin Qingxue saw his hand gently rest on the hilt of his sword. That movement was very casual, like putting it down casually while walking. But Lin Qingxue knew, it wasn't casual, it was a kind of preparation. At the end of the main road, was a vast square, black and heavy, at least 100 people. The auras of the Dharma image realm connected together, like an invisible wall. Pressing pressing over the square. Further out were Spirit Platform Realm disciples. Although they had no qualification to stand in the front row, they also flocked out to watch the excitement. In less than a stick of incense, the Ji family had mobilized all the experts they could mobilize. Ji Zishuan stood at the forefront of the crowd. Behind him were a great elder of the void-piercing realm and 2 peak Dharma image realm elders. And further back were more than 30 clansmen in the mid to late stage of the Dharma image realm. The formation was displayed, the spiritual pressure like a mountain. Ordinary people standing on this square would be breathless. But when Mu Yunshan stepped into the square, everyone's gaze fell on him. White clothes, black hair, sword hanging at his waist. Indeed no cultivation. Walking on the Ji family's territory, facing the siege of over 100 cultivators. He was as casual as walking into his own backyard. It's him. The great elder Ji Yunshan standing beside Ji Zishuan frowned, sizing Mu Yunshan up. Indeed he couldn't see through him. Great elder, this person is strange, Ji Zishuan whispered. I looked him in the eye at the restaurant, and my whole body couldn't move. That definitely wasn't pressure. It was. Ji Yunshan pondered for a moment, also unable to find the right word. He had lived for 2,000 years. His cultivation at the peak of the void-piercing realm, considering himself well-informed, but he couldn't describe the feeling this white-clothed man gave him. It was like facing an abyss. The surface was calm and quiet, but you didn't know what was hidden underneath. Your Excellency trespassed into my Ji family. For what reason? Ji Yunshan opened his mouth in a deep voice. The voice wrapped in the aura of the void-piercing realm, shaking the stone slabs on the square so they hummed. Mu Yunshan stopped. He glanced at Ji Zishuan. He disturbed my meal in the restaurant just now, and was scared away by me. I felt that you all would come to find me sooner or later, so I came in advance to ask. Isn't it time to apologize? Once the words fell, there was an uproar in the square. A mortal, breaking into the Ji family, asking the legitimate young master of the Ji family to apologize to him. Presumptuous. An elder behind Ji Yunshan roared. What kind of thing are you? Worthy of having a Ji family person apologize to you? Mu Yunshan looked at that elder. The elder's voice came to an abrupt end, not from being intimidated by pressure, but because after he finished that sentence, he suddenly felt his words were laughable. Why laughable? He couldn't say, but the gaze that white-clothed man looked at him with had no anger, no disdain, not even any excess emotion. It was that lack of emotion that made him feel that his roar just now was like an ant shouting at an elephant. I did not trespass. Mu Yunshan withdrew his gaze. I had someone report. He didn't see me. He didn't come out, so I came in. This is very fair. Fair? Ji Yunshan was laughed with anger. You, a mortal, talking about fair with my Ji family? What's wrong with being a mortal? Mu Yunshan asked in return. Ji Yunshan faltered. Yes, what's wrong with being a mortal? The problem is this person really a mortal? A mortal, who can walk into the Ji family's great mountain protecting array without triggering any alarm. A mortal, who can make a Dharma image realm Ji Zishuan say my whole body couldn't move. A mortal, standing in the siege of 100 cultivators, not changing his face. Ji Yunshan took a deep breath, suppressing his anger. Your Excellency, I don't care who you are, nor how capable you are. The Ji family is not a place where you can run wild. Retreat now, and I can act as if nothing happened. Mu Yunshan yawned. He apologizes. I leave. Impossible. Ji Zishuan finally spoke, his voice carrying an irrepressible anger. You, a mortal, ask me to apologize. Do you know what status my Ji family has in the first heaven? Do you know my cousin is a person of the Zhao family? Your cousin is a person of the Zhao family. What does it have to do with me? Mu Yunshan interrupted him. The Zhao family sage is watching me outside the first heaven right now. Do you think I would be afraid of your cousin? The square instantly quieted down. Everyone was digesting the information in this sentence. The Zhao family's sage, outside the first heaven, watching him. The Zhao family is a sage family of the fourth heaven. This is something everyone in the immortal realm knows. But for a sage to personally move out, to watch a mortal, either this person is blowing wind, or he is truly worthy of a sage personally taking action. Ji Zishuan's face changed. He remembered the rumor. Yesterday, in the second heaven, at the grand wedding ceremony between the Zhao and Lin families, someone hijacked the bride, killing the Zhao family's ninth tribulation realm butler with a single sword strike. He thought when he heard the news, that some reclusive old monster had made a move, never associating it with this mortal. But now, you are that person who hijacked the bride? Ji Zishuan's voice was a bit tight. Mu Yunshan did not answer, which was taken as an admission. The atmosphere in the square changed completely. Those Dharma image realm clansmen began to retreat unconsciously, and gaps appeared in the once tight encirclement. Killing a ninth tribulation realm expert with one sword strike. What does the ninth tribulation realm mean? Even the Ji family's ancestor, Ji Wujiu, is only at the ninth tribulation of the Jieluan realm. In other words, this man in white has the strength to kill the Ji family's ancestor. What are you retreating for? Ji Yunshan roared. You believe whatever he says? He says he killed a ninth tribulation realm expert, and you believe him? I could also say I killed a sage. The clansmen stopped their footsteps, but the fear on their faces did not vanish, because Mu Yunshan was standing there, doing nothing, yet made them feel that what he said was true. Great elder, Ji Zishuan said in a low voice. At the restaurant, he truly used only one glance. Shut up. Ji Yunshan glared at him, then turned to Mu Yunshan. Your Excellency, you say you killed the Zhao family's ninth tribulation realm butler. Do you you have evidence? Mu Yunshan thought for a moment. No, Ji Yunshan sneered. That is just baseless talk. You say you killed a ninth tribulation realm expert. I could also say I killed a sage. Without evidence. Why should my Ji family believe you? Mu Yunshan looked at him, suddenly feeling a bit bored. He didn't quite understand this logic. Why did he need others to believe him? Whether they believed or not. What did it have to do with him? I don't need you to believe me. Mu Yunshan was expressionless. I am just here to ask for an apology. He apologizes. I leave. If he doesn't apologize, I will make him apologize. You. Ji Yunshan's face flushed red. Just at this moment, an aged voice came from deep within the estate. Enough. The voice was not loud, like a reverberation coming from deep underground, but carried an indescribable pressure. The Ji clansmen in the square all changed expressions simultaneously, bowing their heads one after another. The Ji family ancestor, Ji Wujiu, a white-haired old man, walked out slowly from the depths of the estate. His figure was hunched, his face withered, wearing a washed-out gray robe, looking just like an ordinary old man. But his eyes were not ordinary. There was no cloudiness in those eyes. They were frighteningly bright, like two cold stars embedded in a decaying face. Peak of the ninth tribulation of the Jieluan realm, one step away from nirvana. In the first heaven, this is a ceiling-level existence. His strength not comparable to that Zhao family butler. The Ji family could completely ascend to the second heaven, but they simply enjoyed the feeling of being overlords in the first heaven. Ji Wujiu walked to the center of the square, stopping 3 zhang in front of Mu Yunshan. He glanced at Mu Yunshan, just one glance, and his pupils contracted. He couldn't see through him, couldn't see the depth, could see nothing at all. This person before him, in the divine sense of his ninth tribulation Jieluan realm, was a blank slate, no cultivation, no spiritual energy, nothing that a cultivator should have. But instead, this person stood before him, making him feel a long-lost unease. The last time he had this feeling, was 2,000 years ago, when he faced a late-stage nirvana realm powerhouse. This old man, Ji Wujiu. The old man opened his mouth, voice flat. Your Excellency says, Zishuan offended you at the restaurant, and wants him to apologize? What if this old man refuses? Mu Yunshan thought for a moment. Then I will make him have to agree. The air in the square suddenly solidified. Ji Wujiu's eyes narrowed. Having lived for 4,000 years, it had been a long time since he heard anyone speak to him in this tone. The last one who said that, had had his bones turned to ash. Young man. Ji Wujiu's voice turned colder. This old man doesn't care how capable you are. This is the Ji family, not a place where you can run wild. I just want an apology. Mu Yunshan said. What if this old man says, an apology is impossible? Ji Wujiu's attitude was tough. Mu Yunshan frowned slightly. I've changed my mind now. As the words fell, the square plunged into an eerie silence. No one spoke. No one moved. Everyone was waiting. Waiting for Ji Wujiu's reaction. Or waiting for the next step of this man in white. Ji Wujiu did not move. His eyes stared fixedly at Mu Yunshan. His ninth tribulation Jieluan realm divine sense operating at full capacity, trying to find a single flaw in this young man before him. But he found nothing. Mu Yunshan just stood there, like the most ordinary mortal in the human world. No killing intent. No fighting spirit. Even his standing posture was slouchy, like a neighbor coming for a visit. But Ji Wujiu had lived for 4,000 years. He knew that the more ordinary something looks, the more extraordinary it often is. Young man, Ji Wujiu said slowly, you need to think clearly. The Ji family has operated in the first heaven for 10,000 years, and we are not without trump cards. Trump cards? Mu Yunshan tilted his head. Are you talking about the people behind your Ji family? Ji Wujiu's pupils contracted slightly. You've investigated the Ji family? No, Mu Yunshan said. But a family in the first heaven, daring to be this arrogant, there must be someone behind them. Either a force from the second heaven, or the third heaven. He paused, as if thinking about something. However, what does it have to do with me? Ji Wujiu's brows furrowed. He couldn't keep up with this young man's logic at all. In his view, an outsider breaking into the Ji family, facing an ancestor of the ninth tribulation of the Jieluan realm, even if not afraid of him, knowing there were people behind the Ji family, should at least show some apprehension. But Mu Yunshan didn't. He stood there, like stating a fact that had nothing to do with himself. This old man will ask you one last time. Ji Wujiu's voice sank. Will you retreat or not? Mu Yunshan did not answer. His hand rested on the hilt of the sword at his waist. The movement was very slow, very casual, like doing a trivial little thing. But it was this trivial movement that made all the Ji clansmen in the square take a step back simultaneously. It was an instinctual reaction of the body, just like seeing a natural predator, the body moving before the brain. Ji Wujiu's face finally changed. He felt it. That thing emanating from Mu Yunshan. It wasn't killing intent. It wasn't pressure. It was a more essential sense of existence. It was as if this person was no longer a person, but a sword. A sword without a scabbard, without a name, without any decoration. A sword is just a sword. You. Ji Wujiu wanted to say something. Mu Yunshan's sword moved. No one saw how he drew the sword. The sword light flashed and vanished, as fast as a bolt of lightning streaking across the night sky, so brief that not one of the hundreds of cultivators present saw the trajectory of that light. The sword had already returned to his waist, as if nothing had happened. Ji Wujiu stood on the spot, maintaining his previous posture, eyes wide open, mouth slightly agape. The square was so quiet that one could hear the wind blowing through the spiritual herbs, and Ancestor, Ji Zishuan called out tentatively. No response. Ancestor, Ji Zishuan's voice was a bit louder, carrying a trace of unease. Still no response. Ji Wuzhou's head left his neck. There was no blood, because the sword was too fast. Fast to the point that before the blood had time to flow out, the wound had already been scorched and sealed by the sword chi. The headless body fell backward, hitting the stone slabs with a thud, kicking up a cloud of dust. Ninth tribulation of the Jieluan realm. The sealing of the first heaven. One sword strike. Dead. In the square. Deadly silence. All the Ji clansmen, including the great elder Ji Yunshan, including Ji Zishuan, including those 30+ Dharma image realm experts. Everyone stiffened on the spot. Their eyes were wide open, mouths agape, yet they couldn't make any sound. Their minds were blank. The ancestor was dead. The ancestor who had lived for 4,000 years. The ancestor of the ninth tribulation of the Jieluan realm, was killed by one sword strike, by a mortal without a cultivation realm. Not a grand battle, not a back-and-forth duel, but one sword strike. A plain, ordinary sword strike. From drawing the sword to sheathing it, it didn't even take a blink of an eye. Ji Yunshan was the first to regain his senses. His body was trembling. He and Ji Wuzhou had been together for 2,000 years. Since he was a small cultivator of the spirit platform realm, Ji Wuzhou had been the heaven of the Ji family. 2,000 years. He always thought this heaven would never collapse. Now, the heaven had collapsed. You. Ji Yunshan's voice was so hoarse it didn't sound like his own. You killed him. Mu Yunshan hung the sword back on his waist, the movement still very casual. How did he live so long? Mu Yunshan asked. Ji Yunshan opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but his throat felt like it was blocked by something. He wanted to say, what right do you have to kill him? But these words were too ridiculous. He wanted to say, the Ji family won't let you off. But the ancestor was dead, so what qualification did the Ji family have to say, won't let you off? He wanted to say many things, but in the end, he only managed to squeeze out one sentence. Who exactly are you? Mu Yunshan looked at him. Didn't you ask at the door just now? Does this count as evidence? Do you believe me now? He looked at Ji Wuzhou's corpse on the ground, and then looked at Mu Yunshan. Believe. I believe. Mu Yunshan said, oh, wouldn't it have been better if you believed earlier? Ji Yunshan's lips trembled twice, not speaking. What else could he say? The ancestor's corpse was lying right in front of him, the blood not yet dry. If he said he still didn't believe, the next one lying on the ground might be him. Other Ji clansmen in the square finally began to react. Fear, that kind of irrepressible fear, seeping out from the bones. Some began to retreat, some collapsed on the ground, some turned and ran directly. Dharma image realm cultivators, who could be counted as experts in the first heaven, were now running more dismally than mortals. No one laughed at them, because those who didn't run, weren't because they didn't want to, but because their legs were too soft to move. Ji Zishuan stood on the spot, his face as white as paper. He remembered that look in the restaurant, remembered the feeling of dying at any moment. Now he knew, that wasn't an illusion. He could truly die. Mu Yunshan looked toward Ji Zishuan. With just one glance, Ji Zishuan's knees bent. Plop. He knelt on the ground. I apologize. His voice was trembling, tears streaming down his face without him knowing when. I shouldn't have disturbed your meal. I shouldn't have mocked you. I shouldn't have, he said incoherently, snot and tears blurring his face. Not a shred of a scion of a noble family left. Mu Yunshan watched him, silent for 2 seconds. Just one word. Then, he turned, and walked toward the outside of the square. Senior, Lin Qingxue was stunned for a moment, hurrying to follow. Just like that? Otherwise? I came precisely to ask for an apology. He apologized. That's enough. That what was his name ancestor spoke too much. I already gave him half an hour. He actually still hadn't found out who I am. How on earth did he live so long? Lin Qingxue looked back at Ji Zishuan kneeling on the ground, and then looked at the corpse of Ji Wuzhou on the ground, suddenly not knowing what to say. This man, for the sake of an apology, killed an ancestor of the ninth tribulation of the Jieluan realm. And then, the apology was received, so he left. No wiping out the clan, no ransacking the home, no looting resources, not even saying an extra word. He comes, he kills, he leaves, clean and neat. Lin Qingxue hurried to follow Mu Yunshan. The two, one after the other, walked along the main road toward the mountain gate. Behind them, in the Ji family's square, it was deadly silent. Ji Yunshan stood on the spot, watching Mu Yunshan's back disappear at the end of the main road, finally slowly sitting down on the ground. He looked at Ji Wuzhou's corpse, silent for a long time. Then he spoke, the voice very light, as if talking to himself, as if talking to everyone. Pass the order down. From today on, the Ji family will close its doors for 100 years. No one responded, but everyone heard it. Closing doors for 100 years. The Ji family, one of the 4 great clans of the first heaven, because of one person, closed its doors for 100 years. Once the news spread, the entire first heaven would be shaken. But at this moment, no one felt that the great elder was wrong, because that person was simply too terrifying. Outside the mountain gate, Mu Yunshan walked out of the light curtain, his footsteps pausing. Those 4 guards were still there. Seeing Mu Yunshan come out, all 4 four retreated several steps at once, their faces deathly pale. They had heard about what happened inside. The ancestor was dead by one sword strike. They had blocked this person just now, said he had no qualification to enter the Ji family gate. Thinking back to it now, all four felt their backs turn cold. If this person had drawn his sword then, they would have been cold corpses by now. Mu Yunshun didn't look at them. Let's go. 2 words, understated, and then he truly left. Lin Qingxue followed behind him, walking a long way, before turning back, to glance at the Ji family's mountain gate. The light curtain was still flowing, but the guards at the gate were gone. The entire Ji family seemed to be pressed down by something, even the air becoming stifling. Senior, Lin Qingxue said softly, when you killed the Ji family's ancestor, what did you feel? No feeling. No feeling. Mu Yunshun continued to walk forward, just like splitting the heavenly tribulation. It was blocking the front, so I split it. Nothing special. Lin Qingxue was silent for a moment. Then if someone blocks in front of you, will you split them all? Not necessarily. Why? Depends on my mood. Lin Qingxue didn't know how to continue this sentence. She followed behind Mu Yunshun, looking at his back with clothes white as snow, suddenly feeling that this person was higher and farther than the sky of the immortal realm. No, not higher and farther. It was different. He was different from everyone else. At the same time, the incident of the Ji family flew across the entire first heaven like it had grown wings. There are 4 great clans in the first heaven. Besides the Ji family, there are 3 others. North of the city, 100 miles away, an estate built on a spirit lake. This was the territory of the Lu family. Lu family ancestor, Lu Yuanzong, 8th tribulation of the Jieluan realm, 1 tribulation lower than Ji Wujiu, but he had lived long enough in the immortal realm. An old fox, always known for being cautious. At this moment, Lu Yuanzong was sitting in the pavilion in the middle of the lake, listening to the report of a man in black. Ancestor, the news about the Ji family is confirmed. Ji Wujiu was killed by one sword strike by a mortal named Mu Yunshun. Ji Yunshan admitted defeat on the spot, and announced the family would close its doors for 100 years. The teacup in Lu Yuanzong's hand stopped in midair. One sword strike. One sword strike. Ji Wujiu is at the 9th tribulation of the Jieluan realm. Subordinate knows, but according to people at the scene, from the moment that person drew his sword to sheathing it, no one saw it clearly. Ji Wujiu didn't even have time to react, and was already dead. Lu Yuanzong was silent for a long time. He put down the teacup, got up and walked to the railing, looking at the moonlight reflecting on the lake. That Mu Yunshun. What is his background? Checked. This person suddenly appeared in the 2nd heaven of the immortal realm 3 days ago, snatched the bride of the Zhao and Lin families, killed the Zhao family's 9th tribulation realm butler with 1 sword strike, and then brought Lin family's legitimate daughter Lin Qingxue down to the 1st heaven. The Zhao family of the 4th heaven? Exactly. The Zhao family sage, Zhao Tianhe, has already personally set out, and is currently watching him from outside the 1st heaven. Lu Yuanzong gasped. A sage personally set out? What exactly is that person's cultivation? No cultivation. According to people who have seen him, he has no spiritual energy fluctuations on him, just like an ordinary mortal. Lu Yuanzong turned around. Gaze like torches. No spiritual energy fluctuations. Yet killing a 9th tribulation realm Jieluan expert with 1 sword strike, and making a sage personally set out. There is such a person in this world? The man in black kept his head down, not daring to reply. Lu Yuanzong paced a few steps in the pavilion, then suddenly stopped. Pass the order. Everyone in the Lu family, do not provoke that Mu Yunshun. If you see him, walk around him, walk far around him. Yes. Also, Lu Yuanzong added, send someone to make contact with him. Don't offend him. Don't curry favor with him. Just get to know a bit. I want to know how long he intends to stay in the 1st heaven. Ancestor, what do you mean? As long as he is in the 1st heaven for 1 day, my Lu family will shrink for 1 day. Lu Yuanzong looked at the lake, his voice a bit bitter. If a 9th tribulation Jieluan expert couldn't take 1 sword strike, then my 8th tribulation will just be serving a dish if I go up. Let's wait for that Zhao family sage to resolve him. Does Ancestor feel the Zhao family sage can resolve him? Lu Yuanzong didn't answer this question. He just looked at the lake, brows furrowed tightly. West of the city, an ancient palace built on the peak of a mountain. This was the territory of the Wang family. The Wang family is the oldest of the 4 great clans. Ancestor Wang Kanglan, 9th tribulation of the Jieluan realm, said to have already stepped half a foot into the Nirvana realm. At this moment, Wang Kanglan was sitting cross-legged deep in the palace, listening to the report of a young man in white. Ancestor, something happened to the Ji family. This emperor already knows. Wang Kanglan didn't open his eyes. His voice as flat as stagnant water. A sword immortal from the human world. No cultivation. Killed Ji Wujiu with 1 sword strike. The young man in white was slightly startled. The ancestor already knows. Although this emperor doesn't go out, there is nothing in the 1st heaven that this emperor doesn't know. Wang Kanglan finally opened his eyes. No emotion in those eyes. Only an indifference after seeing through the world. Tell the clansmen to stay away from him. Ancestor, don't we need to do something? Although the Ji family is not on good terms with us, after all, they are a power of the 1st heaven. An outsider killed the Ji family ancestor. If we have no reaction, how will other forces look at the Wang family? Wang Kanglan looked at the young man in white. The latter met his gaze, and instantly lowered his head. Killed a 9th tribulation Jieluan expert with one sword strike. What do you think his strength is? Do you think I can take a sword strike from him? Wang Kanglin's voice remained calm. The Zhao family sage is watching him from the outside. How many days do you think he can live? Is there a need for us to act and provoke him? Wang Kanglin closed his eyes again. The young man in white was sweating profusely. Ancestor is wise. Retire. The young man in white retired respectfully. Deep in the palace, Wang Kanglin sat alone cross-legged, silent for a long time. He suddenly opened his eyes, muttering to himself, Mu Yunshan, human sword immortal, not cultivating heavenly Tao. In this world, is there really such a person? He had no answer, but he had a premonition. The Zhao family's sage might not be able to kill this person. South of the city, deep in a bamboo forest, this was the territory of the Li family. The Li family is the most mysterious of the four great clans. The clansmen rarely move around outside, but no one dares to underestimate them, because the Li family ancestor, Li Taishu, is recognized as the number one of the ninth tribulation of the Jieluan realm. It is said that 300 years ago he could have already broken through to the Nirvana realm, but he has been suppressing his cultivation, seemingly waiting for something. At this moment, Li Taishu was sitting in the bamboo forest, a game of chess laid out in front of him. There was no one opposite him. He was playing chess with himself. A woman in green walked quickly into the bamboo forest, stopping behind Li Taishu. Ancestor, something happened to the Ji family. Li Taishu dropped a white piece, not raising his head. Killed Ji Wujiu with one sword strike. Interesting. The woman in green was stunned. Ancestor already knows? The first heaven is only so big. What could be hidden from my ears? Li Taishu finally lifted his head, revealing a middle-aged man's face. His features were very ordinary, but there was something indescribable in those eyes. A kind of feeling of understanding, as if nothing could escape his eyes. Where is that person now? Went to the city center, together with Lin Qingxue of the Lin family. Lin Qingxue. Li Taishu recited this name, lost in thought. The Zhao family wants to marry her, not just because of an alliance, right? The woman in green hesitated for a moment. It is said that Lin Qingxue's constitution is special, but the Lin family only tested out a common spirit body, and the Zhao family sage might have seen something. Li Taishu nodded, and dropped another black piece. Go, send a gift to that Mu Yunshan. The woman in green was stunned. Send a gift? Send a jar of 3,000-year-old bamboo leaf green. Just say. Li Taishu thought for a moment. Just say the Li family invites him for a drink. Ancestor, why must we? Just go. Li Taishu interrupted her. This emperor has his own judgment. The woman in green didn't dare to ask again, turned, and left. The bamboo forest returned to silence. Li Taishu looked at the chessboard, suddenly smiled. Mu Yunshan, human sword immortal. That old thing Ji Wujiu was just comfortable for too long, thinking that no one in the first heaven could kill him. He picked up a white piece, suspended in midair, lingering long without dropping. Zhao family sage, I hope you don't die too early. This emperor still wants to see what exactly you are. The white piece dropped. On the chessboard, black and white were interwoven. Winner and loser undecided. In the city, Mu Yunshan and Lin Qingxue returned to the inn. The sky had already darkened. Night in the first heaven came earlier than in the human world. The gray sky turned into a deep ink blue, occasionally a few stars revealing faint light. Lin Qingxue sat at the table in the lobby of the inn, watching Mu Yunshan order a table full of food again. Senior, are you not tired? Not tired. Not worried? Worried about what? The Zhao family's sage, the Ji family's retaliation, and those people watching us. Mu Yunshan picked up a piece of food, chewed, swallowed. Aren't you tired like this? Worrying about this and that? If you worry, will they stop watching us? Lin Qingxue opened her mouth, wanting to refute, but found she had nothing to say. That's right. What's the use of worrying? Worrying. Would the Zhao family's sage leave? Worrying. Would those people watching them disappear? No. What should come will come. Senior. Lin Qingxue changed the topic. Why are you willing to take me with you? Mu Yunshan's movement of picking food paused. Why do you ask this? I just want to know. Lin Qingxue looked at him seriously. We have no previous connections. It was just a one-time encounter at the wedding ceremony. You could have walked away by yourself. Taking me is a burden. You are not the kind of person who would meddle in others' affairs. She said this last sentence very decisively, because she saw it. Mu Yunshan was a person who had a natural sense of detachment from the things of the world. He wasn't indifferent. He just didn't care. Others' lives or deaths had nothing to do with him. So at the wedding, he could have not cared about her. But he did. So she wanted to know why. Mu Yunshan put down his chopsticks, looking at her. The look in your eyes at the wedding ceremony, I have seen before. What? A long time ago. Human world. A woman sold into an arranged marriage. Mu Yunshan said. She looked back once before boarding the bridal sedan, her eyes full of unwillingness. And then, later, she threw herself into a well on the third day after marriage. Lin Qingxue's heart twitched. I didn't care at that time, Mu Yunshan said, his tone unchanged. But Lin Qingxue heard something very strange. I remembered that matter, not because I regret it, but because I can't forget that look in her eyes. He picked up the wine glass, drank a sip. So this time, I wanted to try. What would happen if I cared? Lin Qingxue was silent for a long time. Just because of this? Not because of anything else? Mu Yunshan glanced at her. Anything else? Lin Qingxue's face flushed slightly, hurriedly lowering her head to eat rice. Nothing. In her heart, there was a tiny bit of disappointment, but more of it was relief. So, this person helping her wasn't because of who she was, but because of a look. An unyielding look just like hers. This made her feel more settled than love at first sight. The lobby of the inn quieted down, because the other guests had long since run away. Someone who just killed the G family ancestor was sitting here eating. Who would dare to stay? The shopkeeper hid behind the counter, his legs shaking, but still braced himself and didn't run. Not because he was brave, but because his shop was here. If he ran, the shop would be gone. Shopkeeper. Mu Yunchen suddenly spoke. The shopkeeper shuddered all over. Here. Bring another pot of wine. All right. The shopkeeper scrambled to get the wine. The lobby of the inn became completely quiet. Mu Yunchen was sitting alone in the empty inn. The leftovers and dregs laid out on the table. The wine in the pot half empty. He picked up the wine glass. Didn't drink, just watched. The wine in the cup swayed slightly, reflecting his blurry reflection. Zhao Tianhe. He recited this name once, then smiled a little, seemingly looking forward to this so-called sage. He drank the wine in the cup in one gulp. Come. Night deepened. The night in the first heaven had no moon, only a gray sky and occasionally twinkling starlight. The area around the inn was abnormally quiet. No insect chirps, no bird calls, not even the wind. This quietness was extremely eerie, as if something external had pressed down on this piece of heaven and earth. Mu Yunchen sat in the lobby, not moving, his hand resting on the hilt of the sword, eyes closed. He wasn't sleeping. He was listening to the sound of the wind, listening to the sound of spiritual energy flowing, listening to the sound of the operation of the rules of heaven and earth. Something was approaching, not from the outside, it was coming from above. The sage of the fourth heaven had arrived. A crack opened in the void above the inn. No sound, no light, very quiet, like a piece of paper being torn from the middle. From the crack, a withered hand stretched out. That hand was very slow, very steady, as if afraid of startling something. But Mu Yunchen had already opened his eyes, waiting for you for a long time. His voice wasn't loud, but in the quiet night, it reached every corner clearly. The hand in the void paused. Then, an old man walked out from the crack. Gray robe, withered features, a pair of eyes shining like two lamps. Zhao Tianhe, fourth heaven Zhao family sage, an old monster who had lived for 10,000 years. He stood above the inn, looking down at Mu Yunchen. You deliberately induced me to come. Mu Yunchen didn't deny it. You chased from the second heaven to the first heaven. Wherever I went, you followed. I find it annoying. Zhao Tianhe's eyes narrowed. Annoying? You killed my Zhao family's butler, hijacked my Zhao family's bride, killed the Ji family's ancestor of the first heaven, and you find it annoying? Zhao Tianhe's aura exploded suddenly. The sage realm aura, sweeping down like a violent storm. The roof of the inn was directly blown away. Tiles, wooden beams, dust filled the sky. Cultivators within 100 miles were awakened from their dreams simultaneously, looking up toward that direction. Sage. A sage has made a move. That aura was too terrifying, like a giant mountain pressing on everyone's heart. Spirit platform realm and Dharma image realm cultivators collapsed directly to the ground, trembling. Void-piercing realm cultivators were also deathly pale. Jieluan realm powerhouses flew into midair, watching from afar. That is, the Zhao family's sage, the fourth heaven's Zhao Tianhe. He really came. That man in white is finished. When a sage makes a move, death is certain. Zhao Tianhe didn't rush to make a move. He was observing. Mu Yunchen was sitting there. The roof was blown away, so he was exposed to the night sky. But he didn't move, didn't stand up, didn't draw his sword, didn't even lift his head to look at Zhao Tianhe once. He just sat there, with the half pot of wine and leftovers in front of him, as if nothing had happened. Zhao Tianhe's heart sank. This reaction, wrong. A normal person, facing a sage's pressure, couldn't have this reaction. Either he was a fool, who didn't know what a sage meant, or he was fearless. You are not afraid of me? Zhao Tianhe asked. Mu Yunchen finally lifted his head, glanced at him. Afraid of you for what? Afraid that I will kill you? You think too highly of yourself. Zhao Tianhe's aura faltered. Having lived for nearly 10,000 years, he had heard many people talk before him. Some begged for mercy to survive. Some used the powers behind them to threaten. Some bragged. Some put on airs. Zhao Tianhe's hand clenched. He didn't believe a mortal without spiritual energy fluctuations, without a boundary realm, could be that strong. If the ninth tribulation realm couldn't beat you, the sage realm still couldn't beat you. He raised his right hand, a ball of dark red light condensing in his palm. That was the sage's power, enough to destroy half of the first heaven. One last question. Zhao Tianhe's voice was cold as ice. Lin Qingxue, will you hand her over or not? Mu Yunchen did not answer. He picked up the wine pot on the table, poured himself a cup of wine. The wine liquid fell into the cup, emitting a crisp sound. In the deadly silent night, this sound was exceptionally clear. Zhao Tianhe's face sank completely. Looking for death, he pressed down with a palm. The dark red light transformed into a huge palm, slamming down from the sky. That palm covered half the firmament, carrying the power to destroy heaven and earth. Smashing toward the inn, cultivators within 100 miles closed their eyes simultaneously. It's over. That man in white is finished. No one can survive a palm strike from a sage. No one. Boom. A loud noise shook heaven and earth. Smoke and dust soared into the sky. The ground shook violently, like an earthquake. Buildings within a radius of 10 miles all collapsed. Deep, bottomless fissures cracked open along the streets. Those cultivators watching from afar were blown away away by the shockwave. Those with low cultivation were directly blasted into vomiting blood. When the smoke and dust dispersed, everyone gasped. At the location where the inn stood, a massive deep pit appeared. The pit was hundreds of feet in diameter, bottomless. The edges were as smooth as if cut by a blade, and in the center of the deep pit stood a person. White clothes, black hair, a sword hanging at his waist. Mu Yunshun. He was standing, one hand holding a wine cup. Not even a drop of wine in the cup had spilled. Zhao Tianhe's pupils shrank violently. How is this possible? His palm strike was enough to wipe out a cultivator at the peak of the Nirvana realm. But this mortal took the strike head-on, unharmed. He didn't even spill the wine in his hand. Mu Yunshun looked down at the wine in his cup, almost spilled. He looked up at Zhao Tianhe. Are you going to compensate me or not? Zhao Tianhe's expression became extremely ugly. He had lived for so many years. He had never seen a person like this. Who exactly are you? Why do you all like to ask the same question? If you don't know who I am, why did you come to find me? Zhao Tianhe took a deep breath, suppressing the shock in his heart. He stared at Mu Yunshun for a long time. Suddenly, his gaze crossed over Mu Yunshun, looking into the distance. Over there was the direction where Lin Qingxue was. She had been pushed away by a gentle force before the inn collapsed. Now standing on a piece of rubble tens of feet away, her face pale, but unharmed. Mu Yunshun had sent her away the moment the palm strike landed. Zhao Tianhe's eyes lit up. He has a weakness. This woman is his weakness. Do you think you can protect her? Zhao Tianhe sneered. His figure flickered. He lunged toward Lin Qingxue. Fast. The speed of a sage was at its limit. Almost in an instant, he covered a distance of hundreds of feet. Lin Qingxue only saw a gray shadow pouncing toward her. It was so fast she couldn't react. Then she heard a voice. I said, compensate me for my wine. A sword light lit up. It didn't come from Mu Yunshun's hand. It came from the void. That sword light seemed to have been waiting there for a long time, waiting for Zhao Tianhe to run into it himself. Zhao Tianhe's pupils widened instantly. He felt danger. Deadly danger. He couldn't remember how many years it had been since he felt this. Retreat. He instinctively wanted to retreat, but the sword light was faster than him. Puff. Blood splattered. One of Zhao Tianhe's arms flew off. The severed arm spun in the air a few times, and landed with a thud in the pile of rubble. Blood gushed out from the stump. Zhao Tianhe staggered backward, holding the stump of his right shoulder with his left hand. The expression on his face changed from shock to fear. He looked down at the severed arm on the ground, and then looked up at the white-clad man in the distance. Mu Yunshun stood where he was. He hadn't finished the wine in his hand yet. His sword was at his waist. It seemed as if it had never moved. But Zhao Tianhe knew. That sword light had originated from his waist. He had unsheathed his sword. It was just too fast. Too fast for even him to see clearly. You. Zhao Tianhe's voice was trembling. He was scared. He had seen countless experts, and countless sword cultivators, but he had never seen a sword like this. No need to gather energy. No need for moves. No need for any preparatory actions. If he wants to slash, he slashes. After slashing, he retracts it. It seemed as simple as cutting vegetables to sever a sage's arm. What about me? Mu Yunshun finished the wine in his cup. He placed the cup on the rubble beside him. I said you think too highly of yourself. You didn't believe me. Zhao Tianhe opened his mouth, wanting to say some harsh words, but the words were swallowed back as they reached his lips, because he suddenly realized a problem. This person's sword could sever his arm, then it could sever his neck, and just now, he slashed the arm, not the neck. It wasn't that he couldn't reach it. He did it on purpose. Cold sweat broke out on Zhao Tianhe's back. You did it on purpose. You purposely only slashed my arm. Why? Mu Yunshun looked at him, thought for a moment. Because if I killed you, your Zhao family's ancestor would come out. Then I would have to kill people again. I find it troublesome. Zhao Tianhe's face changed. You know my Zhao family has someone beyond the sage level. Mu Yunshun finished his sentence for him. An old monster who has lived for who knows how many years, always in a deep sleep. If you died, he would wake up. If he wakes up, he will come to find me. If he comes to find me, I will have to kill him. If I kill him, an even older one will jump out. He paused. Annoying. Zhao Tianhe fell silent. A stormy sea surged in his heart. This mortal not only knows that the Zhao family has an ancestor above the sage level, but also doesn't take that ancestor seriously at all. He said he would kill him, just like saying he would kill a chicken. It doesn't sound like bragging. It's that he really has this strength. Zhao Tianhe looked down at his severed arm, and suddenly laughed. A bitter laugh. He had lived for 10,000 years, thinking he was the hunter, but he was the prey. He thought he was in the shadows, but the opponent was already waiting in the light. He thought the opponent had a weakness, but the opponent's sword was impossibly fast. What do you want exactly? Zhao Tianhe asked. What do I want? Mu Yunshun thought for a while. I want you to go back. Go back? Go back to your fourth heaven, and stop bothering me. Zhao Tianhe was silent for a moment. Lin Qingxue is mine. Mu Yunshun interrupted him. She is not some bride sent to you by the Lin family. She is someone I took away from the wedding. If you want to snatch her, then come. If you come, then leave something behind. He glanced at the severed arm on the ground. This time it was an arm. Next time, it won't be. Zhao Tianhe's face turned green and white. He stood where he was, silent for a long time. In the distance, the watching cultivators were completely dumbfounded. A sage from the fourth heaven, had an arm cut off by a mortal. Are you going back or not? Mu Yunshun asked again. again. His patience had run out. Zhao Tianhe gritted his teeth. He didn't want to go back. He had waited for 800 years. Only by luck did he find an innate Dao body. If he missed this time, maybe he wouldn't have another chance in this lifetime. But if he didn't go back, he might die here. What this mortal said was true. Next time, it won't be an arm. Zhao Tianhe took a deep breath. I am leaving. He turned around and walked into the void. He walked a few steps, then stopped. Mu Yunshan, you will regret this. Mu Yunshan had already prepared to turn and leave. Hearing this, he paused for a moment, not because he felt threatened, but because he felt a bit annoyed. This person couldn't win, and left, but had to leave a sentence behind. Leaving a sentence is one thing, but he had to leave one that was completely unoriginal. How many years had he lived? Several tens of thousands of years. And after several tens of thousands of years, this is what he learned. What did you just say? Zhao Tianhe thought he was afraid. He sneered. I said, you will regret it. Before he finished speaking, a sword light lit up. This time, no one saw the trajectory of the sword light, because the moment it appeared, it had already vanished. Zhao Tianhe's voice came to an abrupt end. He stood there, his mouth still in the shape of the word regret. The light in his eyes was fading at an irreversible speed. A red line as thin as a hair extended from the center of his eyebrows to his chin, piercing through his entire head. Having lived so long, low strength is one thing, but his brain is also stupid. Mu Yunshan's voice came from afar. Zhao Tianhe's body fell backward, crashing into the pile of rubble, kicking up a cloud of dust. A sage's blood seeped from the wound on his brow. Not much, because the wound was too thin, so thin that the blood couldn't flow smoothly. He lay in the rubble, his eyes still wide open. Frozen in his pupils was the shock of the final moment. Mu Yunshan looked at the corpse on the ground. He really did regret it, regretting that he hadn't killed him directly. This was his first time in the immortal realm. He had wanted to leave a good impression on everyone, didn't want to kill too many people. But why did Zhao Tianhe have to say that extra sentence? You will regret it. Mu Yunshan had heard too many harsh words. Demons of the human world had said it. Sect masters of immortal sects had said it. Even the thunderclouds of heavenly tribulations had said it. Saying it over and over, it was always these few lines. Nothing new. When Zhao Tianhe said those words, his tone carried a sense of certainty, as if he were sure that Mu Yunshan wouldn't dare to kill him, as if he were sure that the person standing behind him could keep him safe. This certainty made Mu Yunshan feel amused. Who stands behind you? What does that have to do with me? Even if you have an emperor behind you, are you one? If you aren't one, why are you spouting threats? Wouldn't it be better to just honestly get lost? Now it's fine. Since you won't leave, then stay here. The sword light had fallen. Zhao Tianhe was dead. The watching cultivators in the distance fell into dead silence. Their brains were no longer processing anything. A sage from the fourth heaven, an old monster who had lived in the immortal realm for 10,000 years, was dead, killed by a mortal with no cultivation level, with one sword strike, not a severed arm, not a severe injury. It was a killing. It was death. It was a corpse lying in the rubble. The blood hadn't even dried yet. A cultivator at the Jieluan realm opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but only a vague whimper came from his throat. He had cultivated for 3,000 years, had seen countless experts, had heard countless legends, but he had never witnessed the fall of a sage with his own eyes. The impact was too great, so great that his cognitive system collapsed at that moment. Sages are not invincible. Sages can also die, and they die so cleanly, so neatly, without even a chance to fight back. Run, run fast. Someone didn't know who shouted first. The watching cultivators scattered like a startled flock of birds. No one wanted to stay. No one wanted to know what would happen next, because they had seen things they shouldn't have seen. The death of a sage. The forces involved were too massive. The revenge of the Zhao family. The wrath of the Zhao family's ancestor. Any one of them was more than they could bear. Run. Run as far as you can. It would be best to erase everything seen today from their minds. Lin Qingxue stood where she was, not running. She felt her own brain was also insufficient. Why did this senior kill a sage just like killing someone at the Jieluan realm? Why did the sage die so carelessly? Zhao Tianhe turned around, said one sentence. Sword light flashed. Zhao Tianhe fell down. Senior. Her voice was drifting. Did you kill him? Didn't you say, if you killed him, the Zhao family's ancestor would wake up? He will. Then why did you? He talked too much. Mu Yunshan said. I don't like it. Lin Qingxue opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but realized anything she said was meaningless. The person was already dead. What happened had already happened. Let's go. Mu Yunshan said. Go where? Leave here first. That quasi-emperor won't wake up so fast. But it won't be too long either. Mu Yunshan turned around, and walked into the darkness. Lin Qingxue glanced at the corpse on the ground, and quickly followed. She walked a few steps, and suddenly stopped. Senior, that, doesn't it need to be dealt with? She pointed at Zhao Tianhe's corpse. A sage's corpse is full of treasures, flesh, bones, the sage origin in the Dantian. Any one of them is enough to make an ordinary cultivator take a step to heaven. Deal with what? Mu Yunshan didn't even turn his head. The corpse, sir. Just leave it like that. What else? Can it be sold for money? He paused. Right. I almost forgot the storage ring on him. Zhao Tianhe's corpse lay in the pile of rubble. The sage's blood had already congealed. A layer of dark red blood scab had formed at the wound. Mu Yunshan squatted down and started searching the corpse. His movements were very skilled, as if he had searched countless people in the human world. Senior, you are. Lin Qingxue stood a few steps away. Her voice sounded a bit faint. It was the residual aura of the sage pressing on her, making her unable to breathe. Even dead, a sage is still a sage. The residual pressure on the corpse was enough to prevent cultivators at the Lingtai realm from getting close. She tried to take 2 steps forward. Her chest felt like it was being crushed by a mountain. The air in her lungs was squeezed out completely. It's fine. You stand further away. Mu Yunshan didn't even turn his head. Lin Qingxue honestly retreated. Mu Yunshan searched Zhao Tianhe's body for a while, and took out several items. A storage ring, gray and plain, inconspicuous. A token, with the character, Zhao, carved on it. On the back was the power imprint of the 4th heaven, and a thin manual. The cover was already yellowed. The corners were heavily worn. Clearly read countless times. Mu Yunshan held the storage ring in his hand. His divine sense probed in. Then he was stunned for a moment. What's wrong? Lin Qingxue asked. This guy is really rich. Mu Yunshan roughly scanned the items in the storage ring. Upper-grade spirit stones, 30,000 pieces. Top-grade spirit stones, 200 pieces. Various pills, spirit materials, magic tools piled up in 3 full storage spaces, and some miscellaneous things. Cultivation manuals, map jades, several letters, a spare set of robes, half a pot of old wine of unknown vintage, 30,000 upper-grade spirit stones, 200 top-grade spirit stones. Mu Yunshan reported the numbers. His tone had no fluctuation. Lin Qingxue gasped. 30,000 upper-grade spirit stones, 200 top-grade spirit stones, combined with what Heavenly Sword Emperor gave before. The spirit stones Mu Yunshan had now were enough to buy the entire 1st heaven. Senior, what is that token? Mu Yunshan turned the token over to look at it. The Zhao family's identity token, the keepsake of a Zhao family sage from the 4th heaven. Holding this, one can pass through certain places in the 4th heaven. And that manual? Mu Yunshan opened the manual, scanned a few pages. The handwriting on the manual was neat and ancient. The ink had penetrated deep into the paper fibers. At least several thousand years of history. It is his cultivation notes, Mu Yunshan said. From the Jieluan realm to the Sage realm, every step is recorded. Lin Qingxue's eyes lit up. A sage's cultivation notes. This is a priceless treasure. Do you want it? Mu Yunshan looked at her. Lin Qingxue hesitated for a moment, shook her head. My current cultivation is too low. I can't understand a sage's notes. And, if the Zhao family knows this notebook is in my hands, they will hunt me down even more crazily. Mu Yunshan said and put the manual into his own storage ring. I will give it to you later. Lin Qingxue was startled. Later, he said later. This word from Mu Yunshan's mouth had an indescribable weight, as if he had already decided that this later would be very long. On Zhao Tianhe's body, there remained a gray robe and a pair of boots. Both were sage-level magic artifacts. Mu Yunshan took a look, and didn't want them. There was blood on the robe. He had worn the boots. I don't want them. Lin Qingxue, you are quite fastidious. Wearing a dead person's clothes is uncomfortable. Mu Yunshan stood up, looking at the corpse on the ground, seeming to be thinking about something. Senior, how should we deal with the corpse? Lin Qingxue asked. Can it be sold for money? It could, but a sage's corpse. Ordinary people don't dare to accept it. Lin Qingxue thought for a moment, and added, no one in the 1st heaven would dare. Neither would the 2nd heaven. There might be powers above the 5th heaven who dare to accept it. Keep it for now, Mu Yunshan said. Lin Qingxue was stunned. Keep it for now. Just find a storage bag to put it in, and take a look at it after we go up. Lin Qingxue opened her mouth, finding she couldn't say anything. This senior's attitude toward a sage's corpse was not even as enthusiastic as his attitude toward Candide Hawes. No rush. Let's finish the business at hand first. Mu Yunshan looked at the ruins around him. The inn was gone. The streets were cracked. Most of the buildings within a 10-mile radius had collapsed. All caused by that palm strike from Zhao Tianhe. Mu Yunshan frowned. He didn't like this much. Not because he felt sorry for the buildings, but because he felt these people had no grievances with him, and they suffered because of his affairs. It wasn't justified. That innkeeper. Mu Yunshan turned his head to look in the direction of the backyard. Is he still alive? A rustling sound came from the backyard. The innkeeper crawled out from a pile of broken wood, covered in dust and grime, full of injuries, but still alive. Alive. The innkeeper's voice was trembling, not just because of fear, but also because of pain. The aftermath of the sage's palm strike had blown him away entirely, crashing through a wall. There wasn't a place on his body that didn't hurt. Your inn is gone, Mu Yunshan said. The innkeeper looked at the inn he had run for 300 years turned into a pile of ruins. His eyes instantly turned red, but he didn't dare to say anything. He didn't know who to blame. Blame that sage? The sage was already dead. Blame this man in white? The man in white killed the sage to save his own life. Blaming one or the other, he could only blame his own bad luck. Your inn, how much is it worth? Mu Yunshan asked. The innkeeper was stunned for a moment. What? I am asking you, how much is the inn worth? The land, the building, the things inside. side, added all together. The innkeeper opened his mouth, subconsciously calculating it. Lord, I don't want money. Mu Yunshan continuously poured spirit stones out of Zhao Tianhe's storage ring, piling them into a small mountain, compensating you, and those houses nearby that were damaged as well. The innkeeper looked at the mountain of high-grade spirit stones before his eyes, almost unable to catch his breath. Thousands of high-grade spirit stones. He hadn't seen this many high-grade spirit stones in 300 years of running the inn. Lord, if it's not enough, come find me, or find that Ji family. Lord, what are you doing? Zhao Tianhe hit you. He had no manners and didn't compensate you. I will pay, Mu Yunshan said. The innkeeper's eyes became even redder, this time not because of fear, but because he wanted to cry. He had stayed in the first heaven for 1,000 years, seen countless cultivators, strong bullying the weak, large powers crushing small businesses. He had seen too much of this. But a strong person capable of killing a sage, after a fight, compensating money for the destroyed shops. This was the first time he had seen it. Lord, how do you want me to respond to this? You don't need to say anything. Mu Yunshan turned and walked away. Lin Qingxue followed behind him, looking back at the innkeeper. The innkeeper knelt on the ruins, holding those 2 bags of spirit stones, tears streaming down his face. Senior, Lin Qingxue caught up with Mu Yunshan, her voice a bit soft. Why did you pay them spirit stones just now? The house was destroyed. It was destroyed by Zhao Tianhe. If I weren't here, Zhao Tianhe wouldn't have come. He paused. He is already dead anyway. Besides, the spirit stones weren't mine. Are you feeling uneasy in your heart? Mu Yunshan didn't speak. Lin Qingxue looked at his cold, elegant profile, suddenly smiling a little. Senior, you are a very strange person, looking like you don't care about anything, but your heart is more delicate than anyone else's. Mu Yunshan still didn't speak, but his pace quickened slightly. Lin Qingshue's smile deepened. The two walked on the street between the ruins, the night breeze lifting their robes. Fourth heaven, Zhao family. This is a massive city floating above a sea of clouds. The city walls were cast from 10,000-year cold iron, the surface carved with dense and intricate array patterns. Those below the Nirvana realm just standing at the city gate would be unable to breathe under that pressure accumulated for tens of thousands of years. The Zhao family was once a top power in the fifth heaven. That was a long time ago. In those days, the Zhao family had several sages, and a quasi-emperor ancestor sitting in the clan. Other powers in the fifth heaven would detour when they saw the Zhao family. Later, the ancestor fell. Outsiders thought he was dead. Hostile powers in the fifth heaven took the opportunity to attack.